Chapter 398. Ho, 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 can't catch me, can't catch me. Dong Huangli made a funny face, then jumped away from Dong Huangli. A lump of golden flame appeared on Dong Huangli's finger, and without even thinking, Dong Huangli threw out the lump of golden flame. A small ball of golden flames drew an arc in the air. It was very beautiful, but also very terrifying. Puff! When the flames landed at the feet of the triplets, they instantly burst into flames. It was as if gasoline had found sparks and wanted to burn everything. The triplets were instantly buried in the sea of fire. They didn't even have the chance to scream before they turned into golden liquid that flowed on the ground. However, the fire could not be controlled at all. It rushed towards His Highness. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Once this sunfall heavenly fire comes into contact with an object, it would burn everything. Don't look at how Dong Huangli had only thrown out a small amount of sunfall heavenly fire, it was more than enough to burn the entire voidless realm. Dong Huangli was stupefied. It was clearly just a small fire, how did it become so big? He even burned Mama's palace. Dong Huangli, who didn't know what to do, immediately burst into tears, because her mommy will definitely scold her. Facing such a huge fire, no one was able to do anything. Dong Huangbaiji couldn't be bothered with the crown prince anymore. She hurriedly carried her daughter into her embrace and left, then ordered everyone to leave. Zhu Jingqing took this opportunity to escape. Just you wait. Wait for me to summon 1,000,000 soldiers. Now you know what pain is. Right now, everyone in Voidless Realm was looking at the tallest mountain, and the tallest mountain had already turned into a huge fireball. As the Empress Palace, it was the most luxurious and symbolic place. Today, it was actually burned down by the Empress' daughter. Everyone was heartbroken, but there was nothing they could do. Dong Huangli was already tired of crying, and while lying on her mother's bosom, she fell asleep. Dong Huangbaiji wanted to scold her, but she didn't know how to do it. Her daughter had resolved the crisis, but she had accidentally burned down the entire palace. It's all Yi Hua's fault. Seems like right now, Yi Hua has to take the blame for everything. This is truly too miserable. In actuality, Yi Hua was powerless to do anything. The might of the deviant flames was unimaginable, especially the sunfall heavenly flame, which couldn't be extinguished no matter what. Qinya let out a deep sigh. I have already told you. You can't teach a child to be too formidable. Yi Hua just won't listen. How long is this fire going to burn? Dong Huangbaiji mumbled. Suddenly, a very obvious small fireball fell from the fireball and landed on a mountain below. Qinya and Dong Huangbaiji's faces stiffened. Sure enough, the mountain peak was instantly set ablaze, and Dong Huangbaiji immediately dispersed the crowd. In the end, Voidless Realm had no choice but to gather the people from Voidless Realm and push the two mountains far away. Only then was Voidless Realm able to escape from this calamity. The main culprit, Dong Huangli, was currently pretending to be asleep, fearing that she would be scolded by her mother. Voidless Realm, which was missing 2 mountains, looked very awkward, especially with the disappearance of the King Peak, which was the topmost mountain. Voidless Realm looked just like a bald lady. Yi Hua expressed that there was nothing he could do about it. Although my main body is heaven-defying, there are still some things that cannot be changed. Fortunately, Voidless Realm was not a single entity. If Voidless Realm was a single entity, Voidless Realm would have definitely been burned to the ground. This was also the reason why Yi Hua often said that it was actually very easy to burn down the entire world. Now, even little Ali could do it. Alright, I just want to see Voidless Realm get burned down. If that's the case, we will have no place to return to, and we can only return to Voidless Realm. However, after this incident, I reckon that Dong Huangli wouldn't use Sunfall Heavenly Fire anymore. It was a pity that Wu Man, the military advisor, was knocked unconscious after only appearing for a few times. When Zhu Jingqing left, he didn't even care about Wu Man and ended up being burned to death. As for the triplets, they all died mysteriously. I reckon that they didn't even have the feeling of death. Seeing that the 3 of them were fine, Yi Hua, who was standing in the air, felt relieved. He didn't have any intention of meeting with them, and thus, he left with Wei Chang and his sister-in-law. Because there are more important things that I have to do, it doesn't seem appropriate for this crown prince to leave just like that, right? Seems like I have to bring my subordinates out for a walk and not force them too much, especially Yi Zizi, who has a bitter expression on her face all day long. Returning back to Leisure Bar, Yihua sent his sister-in-law away and prepared to have a good talk with Yi Zizi. Yihua pushed open the door of the bar, and Yi Zizi's petite back could be seen sitting in front of the desk. Her two ponytails were swaying back and forth behind her head, and it was clear that she was trying to seduce people. "What are you doing?" Yihua walked over and asked faintly. Yi Zizi said, "Teacher's assignment." Yihua took a look at Yi Zizi and saw that she was copying a text, just that, the handwriting is not something that an ordinary person would be able to recognize. Pulling out a small stool, Yihua sat at the side and asked lightly, "What's wrong? Are you unhappy?" Yi Zizi pursed her lips and said with grievance, "Zizi doesn't dare to be unhappy." "Then, I will register you for a cram school." Yi Zizi could be seen directly pouncing into Yihua's embrace and acting cute. Ugh, your honor, I feel like vomiting. It's so stifling." Yihua patted onto Yi Zizi's forehead. "The reason why I came over this time is to help you reduce the pressure." Yi Zizi's beautiful eyes lit up, and she immediately sat properly like a good student and vowed solemnly, "Your honor. As long as you help me reduce the pressure, I promise that I will study properly and improve every day." Rubbing onto Yi Zizi's head, Yihua said eerily, "You will enjoy this time of reducing the pressure." The corner of Yi Zizi's mouth arced upwards, her pair of big scarlet eyes were flickering with bloodlust, and her bright red tongue was licking the corner of her mouth, seemingly unable to wait any longer. Zhu Jingqing, who was forced to return to Heaven's mansion, was currently in a violent rage. "Today, I lost 4 of my generals. The most important thing is that Wu Man died." Wu Ma family had been guarding the borders of Heaven's mansion for generations, defending against the ferocious beasts of Heaven's mansion in exchange for 1,000 years of peace. And this Wu Man was the youngest son that the general doted on. If I were to tell him about this unfortunate news, Father Emperor would definitely blame me. Furthermore, in order to appease Wu Ma family, the punishment will be very heavy. This is not a situation that Zhu Jingqing wanted to see. Bang, bang, bang. Countless spirit porcelains were smashed into pieces by Zhu Jingqing. This kind of low-level world actually has such a child. That's right. This child called Donghuang Baiji Mother. Could it be that this child awakened East Emperor's bloodline? If so, everything will make sense. This East Emperor's bloodline is indeed terrifying. No wonder Ho Shualin wanted to take it for himself. That's right. Since no one knows about Wu Ma An's death, I might as well push the blame onto the person who destroyed Ho Wang Mansion. Your Highness the Crown Prince. A dignified-looking woman could be seen walking over and shouting out with a sweet voice. When Zhu Jingqing, who was in a violent rage, saw this concubine, he immediately thought of those 2 women and grabbed onto the concubine's wrist. Your Highness the Crown Prince, it hurts, Zhu Jingqing shouted out towards the maids, "All of you, scram out." After all of the maids left the room, Zhu Jingqing directly pressed the concubine onto the table and vented out the resentment in his heart. Zhu Jingqing even swore that sooner or later, he will definitely kill those 2 women. After venting out his resentment, Zhu Jingqing felt much better and rewarded the concubine. Chapter 399. Zhu Jingqing was puzzled. Now that Wu Man was gone, he had lost a powerful foil. "All right, allow me to undress." After changing into a new robe, Zhu Jingqing walked into the hall uneasily and saw the person he didn't want to see the most. Wu Ma Chao. Che Hongliang and Celestial Master Ing Wei were there as well. They seemed to be discussing something. Wu Ma Chao wasn't as handsome as his youngest son, Wu Man. His fierce face showed the traces of time. Even when meeting the emperor, he wore armor. If Wu Ma Chao knew that his youngest son had been killed by the crown prince, he would probably kill the crown prince. Why did General Wu Ma suddenly rush back? Zhu Qingxian, who was sitting on the throne, asked curiously. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, I received a secret report from the Celestial Master and immediately rushed back. Wu Ma Chao's voice was loud and clear. Zhu Qingxian was unhappy. The Celestial Master was making a big deal out of nothing. Celestial Master, General Wu Ma is guarding the border. How can we let him come back so suddenly? The Celestial Master was terrified. Your Majesty, this is a special time. With General Wu Ma here, the royal hunt will be safer. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and shouted, Don't worry, Your Majesty. I will do my best to protect Your Majesty. Then I will have to trouble General Wu Ma. Zhu Qingxian was helpless. A trace of annoyance flashed between his brows. Crown Prince, the royal hunt is in 3 days. Finish this quickly. Zhu Qingxian said to his son. This was also a chance for his son to perform for the royal family. Zhu Jingqing cupped his hands and said, Your son understands. Zhu Qingxian nodded and scanned the crowd. I don't want to hear anyone else talk about this bloody light. Anyone who disobeys will be executed. The four knelt together. Your Majesty is wise. You may all leave. The four bowed and left the hall. Zhu Jingqing quickened his pace. He didn't want to talk to Wu Ma Chao in case the latter saw through him. However, this action made Wu Ma Chao feel like something was wrong. In the past, this crown prince was trying to curry favor with him, but now he was leaving so quickly. Your Highness, Wu Ma Chao called with a smile. Zhu Jingqing stopped in his tracks and cursed under his breath. However, he still turned around and smiled. General Wu Ma. Why is my son not accompanying the crown prince? Wu Ma Chao asked curiously. Oh, I didn't see it today either. Zhu Jingqing smiled. You won't be able to find this corpse in your entire life. Wu Ma Chao smiled. That's strange. He's not at home either. Maybe I'll go to a girl's house and stay the night. Zhu Jingqing's words made Wu Ma Chao believe him. Being romantic was their motto. This general will not disturb the crown prince any further. I hope the crown prince will guide my son. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands in greeting. Zhu Jingqing laughed heartily. Well said, well said. Seeing Wu Ma Chao leave, Zhu Jingqing heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, today was a secret mission, and no one knew. Your Highness the Crown Prince. Che Hongliang suddenly walked out from the side, a pair of small eyes revealing shrewdness. Zhu Jingqing was startled, but he squeezed out a smile. Sir Che. Che Hongliang chuckled. Today, Your Highness the Crown Prince brought the general's son and a few subordinates out. I'm sure your luck with women is not shallow. Zhu Jingqing really wanted to chop this bastard in front of him into pieces. He actually sent people to spy on me. Furthermore, he also found out about today's matter. What should I do? Seeing that the Crown Prince did not speak, Che Hongliang said indifferently, Just now, Your Highness the Crown Prince and the General said that you don't know Wu Ma An's whereabouts. This is a bit. Sir Che must have remembered wrongly. Zhu Jingqing gradually stopped smiling. At this moment, he could not even smile anymore. Then, if the General knows that the Crown Prince lied, I'm afraid that the matter will be reported to His Majesty. Che Hongliang. Just what are you trying to do? Zhu Jingqing lowered his voice and shouted. Relying on the support of the Empress, the Crown Prince actually dared to speak rudely to me. Che Hongliang did not expect the Crown Prince to have such a big reaction. At the start, I was only probing, but from the looks of it now, something must have happened. Otherwise, the Crown Prince would not be this nervous. Could it be that Wu Ma has already? Your Highness the Crown Prince is very busy. I'm just afraid that Your Highness the Crown Prince is too busy. Don't you just want a plane? I'll give you one and seal your mouth. So it's this matter. Sir Che, you can be at ease. After the imperial hunt is over, I will report this matter to my father. This was precisely what Che Hongliang wanted to hear. Thank you, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Take care, Sir Che. Looking at Che Hongliang leaving, Zhu Jingqing wished that he could take out his sword and stab Che Hongliang in the back. To actually dare to trick even me. Just now, it would have been great if I had brought the unconscious Wu Man along with me. If not, why would I be threatened by Che Hongliang now? Right now, the most important matter is to properly handle the imperial hunt. After the imperial hunt is over, I will think of a way to get the Donghuang bloodline, Muhua bloodline, and those two women. This matter cannot be spoken out even if I am beaten to death. After all, this matter is more important than the throne. 3 days passed by very quickly. Because it was the imperial hunt, the people in the city were celebrating as if it was a festival. To them, the imperial hunt was a big day. The more the imperial hunt was, the more glorious the imperial family was, and the more peaceful the heavens mansion was. Of course, the hunt was also a chance for the princes to perform. Although the crown prince had already been decided, it was still possible to remove him from his position. The princes all wanted to drag the crown prince down from his pedestal. There were more than 2,000 members of the imperial family in total. Including the generals and guards, there were more than 10,000 people. Zhu Jingqing was the person in charge of this hunt, and he was in charge of everything. Just as Zhu Jingqing was busy, Wu Ma Chao walked over in his armor. He was in charge of safety this time. Your Highness, have you seen my son these past few days? Wu Ma Chao asked in a low voice. His eyes were filled with displeasure. Zhu Jingqing felt Wu Ma Chao's questioning and immediately greeted him with a smile. General Wu Ma, the crown prince has been busy making arrangements for the hunt these past few days. He has been so busy that he has not seen young master, and that is strange. Once this hunt is over, I hope that your Highness will give me an answer. This was Wu Ma Chao's final message. His son's sudden disappearance was definitely not normal. It must have something to do with the crown prince. Zhu Jingqing hurriedly comforted him. Do not worry, General Wu Ma. Once the hunt is over, this crown prince will immediately go find young masterin. Perhaps he is infatuated with someone's daughter. Then I hope that your Highness will remember your words. Wu Ma Chao was not so easy to trick. He, the father, had returned, but his son had to come and see him. Which family's daughter could be kept? Seeing Wu Ma Chao leave, Zhu Jingqing let out a sigh of relief. His heart was heavy. Chapter 400. Drums thundered through the air, carrying with them a sense of majesty and solemnity. It also symbolized that the royal family was out on patrol, and everyone had to kneel to welcome them. As the procession walked out of the palace, everyone on the road to the city gates knelt down to welcome them. This was the royal family of heaven's sanctum. Everyone had to submit to them. After walking out of the southern city gates, the procession gradually rose into the sky and rushed towards the hunting grounds. The majestic procession walked in the sky. When they passed by the city, the people below looked up at the royal family and then knelt down to offer their sincere blessings. The hunting was a traditional festival of the royal family. For safety and the dignity of the royal family, some spirit beasts were specially reared for the royal family to hunt, or if someone injured the spirit beasts first, then the princes would hunt them. In short, the royal hunt was a deep set of traps. Changlin was the royal hunting grounds. Zhu Jingqing had built a temporary courtyard, and opposite the courtyard was a forest. When the people of the royal family arrived, the forest was filled with the melodious chirping of birds. Thousands of birds flew into the sky. Your Majesty is blessed. Even these birds are cheering for your Majesty's arrival. Che Hongliang couldn't help but flatter. Che Mainyang was the current empress and Che Hongliang's older sister. In such an occasion, she would definitely stand by the emperor's side. Receiving the protection of your Majesty, even these birds are singing your praises. It's a good sign. Che Mainyang laughed softly. Behind her was a group of beautiful concubines, all of whom only wanted to receive the emperor's favor. And among these concubines, there were many virgins that even the emperor had forgotten to touch. Hearing these compliments, Zhu Qingxian revealed a faint smile. With this emperor here, the country will naturally prosper and the people will be at peace. Following Zhu Qingshuan's words, everyone knelt down and shouted, God bless your Majesty, God bless heaven's sanctum. Zhu Qingxian smiled and waved his hand. The people began to set up camp, while the people of the royal family and the others entered the courtyard to rest. Walking into the courtyard, Zhu Qingxian smiled. Crown Prince, you did well. Thank you for the praise, Father. In the past, they had to set up tents for the hunt, but this time, Zhu Jingqing had built a temporary courtyard in 3 days. Hearing the emperor praise the crown prince, Che Mainyang and Che Hongliang were very unhappy. Your Majesty, if you let Yun do it, I believe she will do it well, Che Mainyang said in a low voice. Zhu Yun bowed and stood to the side. In a low voice, he said, Your Highness the Crown Prince's intelligence surpasses others. Your son is inferior. Zhu Qingxian didn't say anything, but Che Mainyang glared at her son. Zhu Yun actually didn't like it. Father Emperor valued Zhu Jinqing very much now. Now that Zhu Yun was comparing himself to him, wouldn't that make Father Emperor feel disgusted? This Zhu Yun was a smart person and had some ability. Che Hongliang also valued him a lot, but his sister was too impatient, causing Zhu Yun's image to be bad in front of His Majesty. Royal brother, you must be joking. If you were to handle this matter, you would definitely surpass me. Crown Prince, you are too kind. The two of them complimented each other and were equally matched. As for the princes who were following behind, they watched the development of the situation. Right now, the Crown Prince obviously had the upper hand, but Zhu Yun had the support of the Empress and Che Hongliang. His strength could not be underestimated. In addition, Marquis Wang Ye's entire family was suddenly wiped out. The situation suddenly became complicated and confusing. As the emperor, Zhu Qingxian came here to relax and watch the performance of the princes. Of course, he also had to pamper the imperial concubines. After all, this was also a chance for them. Although they couldn't enjoy the rain and dew, at least they could break as many as they could. At least they wouldn't die with their bodies intact. The hunt officially begins. Princes, go and prepare. Following Emperor Zhu Qingxuan's order, hundreds of princes began to prepare to enter the field. As for the wives of these princes, they also began to worry. Although the spirit beasts in Changlin were of low level, accidents might happen. One had to know. Every time there was a hunt, someone would die. Perhaps these women didn't know that they weren't killed by the spirit beasts, but by their half-brothers. The royal family was just that cruel. As the emperor, he saw all of this but didn't stop it. If the world wasn't won through fighting, would it still be called the world? Princes died one after another, and young princes were born continuously. The gods who had a long life didn't worry about the future generations. Zhu Jingqing was the crown prince and the leader of the entire faction. Although he had lost a powerful helper like Wu Man, these younger brothers still had a lot of power. It seemed like he had to think about it carefully. Crown Prince, why don't we have a competition? Zhu Yun, who was riding on by Rong, said to Zhu Jingqing with a smile. Dozens of princes followed behind him. Zhu Jingqing also had many princes. Royal brother, you said the same thing last year, right? Zhu Jingqing said indifferently. He didn't even look at Zhu Yun, and his words were full of sarcasm. Crown Prince, you are right. However, I have practiced for a year, and I hope to catch up to you. Zhu Jingqing chuckled and said, Royal brother, even if you practice for another 100 years, you still won't be able to catch up to me. Jia. After saying this, Zhu Jingqing led the princes of one faction into Changlin. Dust instantly flew up. Zhu Yun's eyes gleamed coldly as he shouted, Jia. After the princes of the two factions left, there were dozens of princes left. They didn't want to fight and wanted to be free. Therefore, they entered Changlin unhurriedly and hunted some small animals in the periphery before going back to report. After Zhu Jingqing rushed into Changlin, he didn't go inside. Instead, he circled around the periphery before he stopped. Crown Prince. I'm afraid that Zhu Yun is going to kill you. This person was called Zhu Di. Apart from Wu Man, he was the only person that Zhu Jingqing trusted. Zhu Jingqing sneered, after so many years of killing, has he ever succeeded? Your Highness, you should be careful. Zhu Di warned. It was better to be safe than sorry. Underestimating the enemy was a taboo in the military. However, Zhu Jingqing seemed to have forgotten the lesson from 3 days ago. Brothers, let's warm up in the outer perimeter first. Then, follow me in to kill the strongest spirit beasts. Let the Emperor Father witness our teamwork. Zhu Jingqing exuded the might of the Crown Prince and shouted at the people behind him to boost their morale. Yes. Your Highness. On the other side, Zhu Yun led his people to circle around the periphery before he stopped. This time, they must kill the Crown Prince. Of course, they couldn't kill him openly. They had to pretend that they were killed by the spiritual beasts. Royal brother, we must win this time. A handsome man rode out on a spiritual horse. His name was Zhu Zhu, and he was Zhu Yun's right-hand man. Zhu Yun said in a deep voice, "It's either we succeed or we die. It's time to change the Crown Prince." Royal brother, you're right. Zhu Jingqing is a playboy. I don't know what father sees in him. Even if he sees something, he will unfortunately die under the spiritual beast's cudgels today. Zhu Yun revealed a murderous look as if he had killed his father. After saying that, Zhu Yun led his people into the depths of Changlin. It seemed like he wanted to set up an ambush first. There were only some ordinary spirit beasts in the periphery. They were like rabbits or deer, and they weren't aggressive at all. However, as they went deeper, the spiritual beasts became more lethal. However, the strongest spiritual beasts here were only high-level spiritual beasts. Just like ordinary people and tigers and lions, there wouldn't be any dinosaur-level spiritual beasts. Therefore, the spiritual beasts weren't much of a threat to the princes. After all, the weapons in their hands were ancient godly items. As for ancient godly items, they were very rare. Chapter 401. As Zhu Yun ventured deeper into the forest, the air was filled with a sense of fear. This caused everyone to feel strange. Brother, why do I feel that something is wrong? Zhu Zhu frowned and looked around. Why didn't he feel this way in the past? It was as if a strange aura was pressing down on his back, making it hard for him to breathe. Zhu Yun also noticed that something was amiss and stopped his horse. His instincts told him that he couldn't go any deeper. Could there be a high-level ancient beast? Zhu Yun muttered. That's possible. Dong. 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 Suddenly, a series of stomping sounds rang out, causing the ground to tremble. The prince's horses were startled, but they quickly calmed down. After all, their mounts were not ordinary war horses. The tremors on the ground were getting stronger and stronger, indicating that they were getting closer. Zhu Yun felt his entire body trembling. Roar! An angry roar broke the tranquility of the forest. Under the roar, the spiritual energy fluctuation spread out in all directions. Everyone immediately put up their defenses. Zhu Zhu was in disbelief and shouted, "This is a high-level ancient beast, black-green eye." The princes were shocked. They didn't even see any high-level spirit beasts, but a high-level ancient beast had suddenly appeared. This was the royal hunting ground. How could there be such an ancient beast? Retreat! Retreat! Zhu Yun hurriedly ordered and turned to run. Black-green eye was not an ordinary high-level ancient beast, because its size was not ordinary. Boom! Just as the princes were about to turn and run, a gigantic ancient beast charged at them. It had a pair of green eyes, 4 limbs, and silvery white fur all over its body. It was several hundred meters tall, and every time it ran, the ground would tremble. However, upon closer inspection, the green eyes and black eyes looked a bit like a gorilla. Even the way it ran was a bit similar. However, its face was filled with fear. Its green eyes seemed to have seen something even more terrifying. It ran outside without a care for its life. The warhorses of the princes were relatively fast, but compared to a high-level ancient beast, they were still lacking. Scatter and run. Zhu Yun shouted. Black-green eye looked at the princes that were like ants, and it wanted to stomp them to death. Ah! Ah! A few princes instantly died under Black-green eye's huge foot, and they were actually stomped into meat paste. Stop! Zhu Yun suddenly shouted. Everyone stopped what they were doing and dodged the attack very well. After that, Black Eye ran away just like that. What was going on? Wasn't it chasing after him? Why did he run away? Imperial brother, Black Eye seems to be being chased by something. Zhu gasped for breath. The situation just now was truly terrifying. If the black-eyed beast turned around and attacked, the consequences would be unthinkable. In actuality, this black-eyed beast was much more powerful than Ing Family's and Voidless Realm's divine beasts, and they weren't on the same level at all. However, in Voidless Realm, this black-eyed beast was merely a high-rank ancient beast. On the other hand, Ing Family and Voidless Realm's godly beasts could only be considered as high-level spiritual beasts at most. Just as Zhu Yun was about to say something, the ground suddenly began to squirm. Everyone looked at their feet. There was something moving quickly below them. Everyone had a bad feeling as they looked at Black-eyed, who was running for his life in the distance. Boom! The princes stared at the scene in front of them with their mouths agape. A gigantic corpse Kun drilled out from the ground and opened its bloody mouth. Its green eyes were filled with panic. In terms of size, the two weren't on the same level at all. The corpse Kun was several thousand meters long, and when it opened its bloody mouth, it was large enough to swallow the black-eyed beast whole. Fear appeared on Black-eye's face. Although it had jumped high into the air, it wasn't flying, and it was still going to fall. Lowering its head and looking at the huge mouth that was filled with a fishy smell, Black-eyed fell into despair. The corpse Kun could be seen fiercely closing its mouth and letting out a loud sound. The lower half of Black-eye's body was gone, and only its chest and head were left. The two enormous beasts landed from the sky, raising a cloud of dust. All the princes were dumbstruck. However, the matter wasn't over yet. Right now, Black-eyed wasn't completely dead yet. Its strong desire to live was telling it that it still had a chance to live. The corpse Kun was like a python as it revolved around Black-eyed, seemingly playing with this weak life. Imperial brother, why would this ferocious beast appear in Changlin? Zhu's tone was filled with boundless fear. It is impossible for such a ferocious beast to appear in Changlin. Zhu Yun's chest moved up and down, seeming to be very excited. However, within this excitement, there was also deep fear, blood glow. Blood glow. Blood glow. All the princes thought back to what happened a few days ago. Although the news of what happened was sealed off, all of them still knew about it. Now that the corpse Kun suddenly appeared in Changlin, does this mean that the blood glow has been verified? The corpse Kun seemed to have finished playing with the corpse Kun and swallowed the remaining black-eyed. Right now, all the princes didn't dare to make any movements, fearing that this damnable corpse Kun would attack them. If that happened, they would be dead for sure. On the other side, Zhu Jingqing and his men had hunted quite a lot of low-grade spiritual beasts, and their results were pretty good. Crown Prince, do you think that this Zhu Yun will ambush us like how he did in the past? Zhu Di asked with a smile on his face while stepping on the three-horned deer's corpse. Zhu Jingqing sneered, other than ambush, could it be that he still has other tricks up his sleeves? Perhaps, he might even call an accomplice? Zhu Di said jokingly. Accomplice? This is a battle between princes. If he really calls an accomplice and this matter is reported to father, the one who will be out of luck will still be him. Although the emperor allowed the princes to fight during the hunt, it was ultimately a battle within the family, and if outsiders were to get involved, it would be a huge crime. Your Highness is right, but we must also be careful. Zhu Di warned. This was the same as Wu Ma, and they were both doing it for the sake of the crown prince. However, when these words fell into Zhu Jingqing's ears, it was different, as if he was looking down on him. What is there to be afraid of, a small Zhu Yun? It's almost time to go in, this crown prince will take this Zhu Yun's head today. Zhu Jingqing was incomparably arrogant. He was truly someone who was not afraid of being beaten. Roar. Suddenly, a roar came from the depths of the forest. Everyone couldn't help but stop in their tracks, and their positions started to shake slightly. Your Highness, this is an ancient beast. Zhu Di guessed, because it was too far away, he could only make a guess. Zhu Jingqing waited for a long time, and nothing happened, as if the roar was just an illusion. He chuckled, let's go. At this time, Zhu Yun was sweating profusely. The corpse Kuan was actually not moving. Furthermore, the corpse Kuan was fixedly staring at Zhu Yun's side, as if it was issuing a warning. Looking at the festering flesh and the stench coming from the corpse Kuan, the princes' faces flushed red, and they felt like vomiting, but they didn't dare to vomit. Suddenly, a cheerful melody rang out from the depths of the forest. Happy goat, beautiful goat, lazy goat, boiling goat. At this kind of gloomy moment, there was actually someone singing, and everyone couldn't help but look over. Chapter 402. Don't look at me as a sheep, I am actually a wolf. The princes looked at the little girl stupidly. They weren't shocked by the little girl, but because the little girl was riding on the sheep and swaggered past the corpse Kuan. How is this possible? This is a ferocious corpse Kuan, a powerful and ferocious beast that kills people like killing chickens. You, such a cute little girl, actually walked past him and sat on the back of a weak spirit goat. Isn't this the same as delivering delicious food? Yi Zizi stretched out her little hand and yawned. I love his honor so much, he actually let me relieve pressure like this. Sob, sob, sob. I'm so happy these lowly humans revealed that terrified expression again. It was so comfortable to watch. When Yi Zizi stopped in front of the corpse Kuan, everyone took in a mouthful of cold air. If they still don't know what is going on, then they aren't fit to be princes. This little girl is the mastermind behind the scenes, and this corpse Kuan is listening to her. My God, how is this possible? Why would a powerful corpse Kuan listen to a little girl? Yi Zizi jumped down from the sheep's back, then looked at the well-dressed princes in front of her and said, Little brothers, how do you want to die? Zhu Yun looked at the cute little loli and the huge corpse Kuan in front of him, and his mind actually went blank. Zhu Zhu, who was at the side, was also stupefied. This is simply unbelievable. However, one of the princes came back to his senses rather quickly. He could no longer hold back the fear in his heart, and he immediately rode on the spiritual horse and fled. Yi Zizi let out a light sigh, as if she was feeling very regretful. Then, a strand of hair that was like a sharp blade pierced through the prince's head, and the prince hung high up in the air. It has been a long time since I tasted blood essence. Yi Zizi greedily sucked in the blood essence, and a blurry expression appeared on her face. However, the other princes were no longer calm. Looking at their brother who was hung up in the air, their limbs twitched, their eyes rolled up, their skin became whiter and whiter, and in the blink of an eye, they became just skin and bones. Slurpy Zizi couldn't help but let out a sound. Don't let them get away. Yi Zizi said faintly. The corpse Kuan behind her seemed to have woken up, and it emitted a terrifying aura. Boom! Boom! In the other two directions, two more corpse Kuan drilled out from the ground, and those huge heads stared at the princes. Surrounded by three corpse Kuns, the princes were scared witless. They were smart enough to know that they were done for today. I have no enmity with you, why do you want to kill us? Zhu Yun couldn't help but ask. Even if he was going to die, he had to understand. Yi Zizi slowly walked over and said with a sweet smile, who said that one must have a grudge to kill? You. Little big brother, you don't have to be too sad, it's hard for everyone to avoid death. Believe me, your death is heavier than a goose feather, wrong, heavier than Mount Tai, lighter than Mount Tai? Yi Zizi rubbed her head with both of her hands. I wrote it down from memory last night, how could I have forgotten about it? Zhu Zhu summoned his courage and roared, we're princes of heaven's sanctum. You won't have it easy either. I know that you are princes, and there is also a crown prince. Yi Zizi said with a mischievous smile. She seemed like a sinister little loli. Zhu Yun said in a deep voice, "You're talking about Zhu Jingqing? Are you here for Zhu Jingqing?" "You can say that I am. This idiot provoked someone that he shouldn't have provoked." "Zhu Jingqing is not here, he is in another direction, you can just go and find him." Zhu Yun hurriedly reported the location. Yi Zizi laughed, "I know, I will go after I kill you all." "It seems like it's useless to say so much." Zhu Yun was confused and questioned, "Why do you want to kill us?" "Because of Zhu Jingqing." Yi Zizi had a look of, "You are an idiot, is there even a need to ask," on her face? "Then why don't you go and find Zhu Jingqing?" "Because you all aren't dead yet." Yi Zizi stood on her feet and stroked the spirit goat beside her, and that spirit goat closed its eyes comfortably. Zhu Yun remained silent for a while, then asked one last question, "I want to know, will Zhu Jingqing die too?" "He won't die." PFFF. Zhu Yun spat out a mouthful of blood from anger. It was obviously Zhu Jingqing who caused all of this. Why did he not die in the end, and yet I have to die for him? In this life, I am just a foil, even if I die, I will still be like this. Zhu Yun is not willing to accept this. "Wow, you are so angry to the point of vomiting blood, just how big of a grudge do you all have against each other?" Yi Zizi cried out in surprise. It was very rare for someone to vomit blood from anger. Zhu Yun seemed to have collapsed in an instant, then said, "A very big grudge. It's a pity that I have a mission to complete, I am unable to help you take revenge." Yi Zizi pouted her mouth. His honor's order was to leave Zhu Jingqing alive, and the other princes will do as they see fit. The meaning of "do as they see fit" was very clear, that is, death. There was no other possibility. However, when these words fell into the ears of the princes, it was as if a bolt from the blue had struck them, causing their ears to ring. This little girl actually has a mission to complete, then who is the person who gave her the mission? Everyone's scalp went numb, and they couldn't help but think of the bloody glow. The legend is real. When the bloody glow appears, the country will face disaster. However, I can let you all die together, at least you all will be able to see each other's miserable state. What do you think?" Yi Zizi suggested. Zhu Yun agreed to Yi Zizi's suggestion without even thinking. "If I am really going to die, I want to see them suffer the same fate as me." On the other side, Zhu Jingqing had already charged into the depths of Changlin, just that, along the way, they did not encounter any spiritual beasts. Zhu Di said gravely, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, I have a bad feeling about this." "Zhu Di, why are you acting the same as Wu Man?" Zhu Jingqing said gravely. "This Zhu Jingqing doesn't learn his lesson at all." Back then, when he was at Ji family, Wu Ma and had a bad premonition. If he had gone back to Ji family back then, everything would have been fine. Right now, Zhu Di also had a bad premonition. This Zhu Jingqing is still the same, he doesn't listen to advice. However, this time, even if he listens to advice, he won't be able to run away. Zhu Di didn't dare to say anything, fearing that he would anger the crown prince. After circling around the depths of Changlin, Zhu Jingqing didn't see any spiritual beasts, and this caused Zhu Jingqing to be puzzled. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, Zhu Yun and the others have been discovered ahead of us." A prince rushed over and reported. Zhu Jingqing snorted coldly. "From the looks of it, those spiritual beasts were scared away by my prestige. If that's the case, we can only kill them." Jia. With Zhu Jingqing at the lead, the group of princes rushed toward Zhu Yun. When Zhu Jingqing saw Zhu Yun and the others standing together, Zhu Jingqing pulled the horse under him and said with a smile, "Imperial brother, this year, we are not going for a sneak attack, but an open attack." Zhu Jingqing. "Just what did you do?" Zhu Yun shouted coldly. This fellow must have done something outrageous, otherwise, how could he have offended such a ferocious person? "Impudent, you actually dare to speak of the crown prince's name." Zhu Di shouted angrily. Chapter 403. It was normal for princes to dislike each other, but it was rare for them to curse like this. Even if they wanted to curse, they would curse behind someone's back. However, it was rare to curse in front of someone's face, not to mention that the person being cursed was the crown prince. Zhu Zhu's curse made the princes on Zhu Jingxing's side very surprised, but Zhu Yun's side was much more normal. Zhu Zhu, do you know the crime of cursing this crown prince? If you have the guts, try cursing again. Zhu Jingxing's face didn't look good, after all, it was in front of so many people. Crime. Isn't it just losing your head? This daddy is cursing you, Zhu Jingqing, you bastard. Damn Zhu Jingqing, even if this daddy becomes a ghost, I will kill you. Zhu Jingqing, you bastard, this daddy will kill your whole family. All kinds of curses started to attack Zhu Jingqing, which made him feel that something was wrong, but he didn't care. Instead, he suspected that this was a trap. Zhu Yun, I didn't expect that this year, there will be no sneak attacks or open attacks, but a war of words. Zhu Jingqing couldn't help but mock them. He planned to kill a few to show his strength, then beat up the rest to let them know that this crown prince wasn't someone to be trifled with. Zhu Yun coldly laughed, Zhu Jingqing, what kind of stupid thing did you do, don't you have any idea? Do you know how many people you will kill? Zhu Jingqing's heart sank, he couldn't help but think about what happened a few days ago. Could it be that other than Che Hongliang, Zhu Yun also knew? It must be Che Hongliang who told him. Damn, they are all despicable people. It seems like this person can't be left alive today. Hearing Zhu Yun's words, coupled with the attitude of the princes, Zhu Di was puzzled, feeling that something was wrong. The princes behind were also discussing in low voices. After all, the princes weren't fools, could it be that something really happened? What did this crown prince do that angered even the gods? Crown prince, what do you think? Zhu Di asked, seemingly wanting to hear the crown prince's explanation. This made Zhu Jingqing very unhappy. Zhu Di, what kind of attitude is this? Are you questioning this crown prince? I don't dare. Judith hurriedly said. However, she was a little unhappy in her heart. Yelling at her in front of so many princes was not giving her any face at all. Zhu Yun suddenly laughed, then became more and more crazy, making everyone think that Zhu Yun was stupid. Ha ha ha. You're all going to die, ha ha ha. We are all going to die, ha 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 ha. Following this crazy laughter, Zhu Yun's faction couldn't help but laugh, but there were also people who cried. Zhu Jingqing's people were all very surprised. It was fine if one of them was crazy, but all of them had gone crazy. Could it be that they had been bewitched? Moreover, for them to say such words, it was very puzzling. Zhu Jingqing looked on coldly, and a wave of anger rose in his heart. This laughter seemed to be mocking him. Beat him up. If he dies, it's on me. Zhu Jingqing, who had flown into a rage out of humiliation, seemed to have gone mad as well. The princes behind him were also very obedient. They immediately rode their horses over and started a one-sided beating. At the end of the day, they didn't really dare to kill him. In the past, there were times when they failed, but those were normal fights between the two sides. But this time, Zhu Yun and the others from the prince's faction didn't fight back at all. They were still laughing and crying when they were beaten. This made the princes who were fighting stop. Something was not right. You guys are really noisy. The sudden voice caused all the princes to be stunned for a moment. They immediately looked over, their eyes were filled with doubt and greed. Of course, Zhu Yun's side was filled with the fear of impending death. Although Zhu Jingqing didn't like this kind of thing, when he saw such a cute little girl, he couldn't help but have some thoughts. Yi Zizi sat on the spirit goat's back, sizing up the group of princes. Sucking them should be very enjoyable. Little sister, where did you come from? Are you lost? Zhu Jingqing jumped down from his horse, revealing a warm smile. Yi Zizi also revealed a sweet smile. Little brother, are you Zhu Jingqing? Zhu Jingqing paused, then immediately smiled. That's right, I am Zhu Jingqing, the current crown prince. That's good. Yi Zizi's sweet smile instantly turned dark, causing everyone to feel that something was wrong. Bang! 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 3 loud sounds shook the sky, and 3 corpse kuan drilled out from the ground. Those thick, long, and huge bodies surrounded everyone. Their huge heads stared at everyone from 3 directions, and the mucus dripping from the corners of their mouths corroded the grass. This is a vicious beast. It's a corpse kuan. Heavens! How could a corpse kuan appear in Changlin? This is impossible. The princes on Zhu Jingqing's side could not remain calm, and pulled out their swords, looking at the 3 huge corpse kuan in fear. All dead. All dead, ha 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 ha. Zhu Yun laughed maniacally. Yi Zizi pouted, so noisy. A strand of hair with a sharp wind drilled into the back of Zhu Yun's head, and the laughter immediately stopped. His whole body began to twitch, and in the blink of an eye, he was reduced to skin and bones. This sudden change caused all the princes to be dumbfounded. Who was this little girl? Who are you? Zhu Jingqing had no other thoughts, and his face immediately changed. With 3 corpse kuan looking down on him, if he could still remain calm, then he was not an ordinary person. Yi Zizi jumped down from the spirit goat, and took small steps. Zhu Jingqing, don't you know who I am? Seeing that Yi Zizi was approaching him step by step, Zhu Jingqing unconsciously retreated, and soon after, his butt fell onto the ground. This made him think back to 3 days ago. How could there be such a person in that kind of low-level world, with such strength, and to even be able to control 3 corpse kuan? Yi Zizi swept her gaze across everyone, then said with a smile, I am not only targeting Zhu Jingqing, I am also targeting everyone here. Because of him, all of you are going to die. Everyone finally understood why Zhu Yun went crazy. Seems like he already knew that he was going to die. Crown Prince, aren't you going to give us an explanation? Zhu Di was still rather calm, and he shouted out towards Zhu Jingqing. No. I don't know anything. Zhu Jingqing didn't even think too much and immediately jumped onto his unicorn, then ran away madly, and even ran past the corpse kuan. Everyone thought that Zhu Jingqing was going to die, and he was going to die very miserably. But nothing happened. Those corpse kuan didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun, and that little girl also didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun. Zhu Jingqing ran away just like that. When some princes saw that even the crown prince ran away and didn't get injured, they began to imitate Zhu Yun and immediately got onto their unicorn and ran away. Yi Zizi grinned, and several strands of hair flew into the sky. Those princes who were riding on the unicorn were instantly pierced through the back of their heads, and all of them hung in the sky. I said, all of you are going to die. With a cruel smile on her face, Yi Zizi began sucking the blood essence of the gods. Chapter 404. I like it. Yi Zizi said softly. Her twin ponytails immediately flew up, and countless strands of hair silently pierced through the back of everyone's head. Only Zhu Di didn't. Her black hair gradually turned blood red, and a layer of crimson appeared on Yi Zizi's face. She even closed her eyes in intoxication. Zhu Di looked at the scene in front of her and felt that her heart was about to stop. The hand that was holding onto the sword trembled intensely. Why am I not dead? Why is she keeping me alive? In the blink of an eye, other than Zhu Di, all of the princes turned into skin and bones, just like a layer of paper stacked together. I haven't felt so good for a long time. Too amazing. You're amazing. Yi Zizi was so excited that even her sweet voice changed, becoming deep and ghostly. Because she was too excited, that cute face looked especially sinister. After a long time, Yi Zizi calmed down and returned to normal. I am not like that usually. Zhu Di, you don't need to explain, you are just like that. That was your true appearance just now. You devil. Licking the corner of her lips, Yi Zizi let out a sweet voice, you can go. Zhu Di was confused. Why did she let me go? I heard that devils like to see their enemies running away and enjoy that instant of pleasure before killing them to satisfy their perverted psychological needs. Could it be that this little girl is the same? If you don't go, I will also suck you. Yi Zizi snorted lightly. Zhu Di didn't dare to think too much. running away was better than being sucked, at least there was a trace of hope. Just like that, Yi Zizi looked at Zhu Di running away and didn't chase after her. Zhu Di, who was running away, felt very heavy in her heart. If her body turned cold and her head was removed, she would definitely not be surprised. However, after running for a period of time, nothing actually happened. Seems like the other party really let me go. I immediately heaved a long sigh of relief. Yi Zizi took in a deep breath and yawned. She jumped onto the spirit goat and started to head towards the direction where the two ran away, because there was still something that she hadn't announced yet. As for why she let Zhu Di go, this was also Yi Zizi's sudden change of mind. Although she let Zhu Zhenxing go, Yi Zizi felt that she couldn't let him have it too easy. If she let another person go and told the truth about the situation here, that crown prince would probably panic. If Yi Hua knew that Yi Zizi had such a mind, he would definitely be very gratified. Yi Zizi was no longer that little girl who only knew how to suck up humans. Right now, she had also become courageous and resourceful, and was able to destroy the enemy from within. The Imperial Guards were stationed outside the temporary courtyard. As the commander, Wu Ma Chao was patrolling to see if there were any signs of enemies. His bright eyes were looking at Chang Lin, who was not far away. Suddenly, Wu Ma Chao's gaze focused. A horse ran out of the forest. Open the door. Hurry up and open the door. Zhu Jingqing, who was on the horse, shouted in a panic. Wu Ma Chao shouted, open the door. Zhu Jingqing, who was running at top speed, suddenly felt weak and fell off his horse. When the soldiers saw the crown prince fall off his horse, they rushed over. Wu Ma Chao walked over with a puzzled expression. Your Highness. Water. 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 Zhu Jingqing's face was slack and his eyes were filled with deep fear. A soldier took the water bottle, and Zhu Jingqing took it and drank it. After drinking the water, he calmed down a little. Wu Ma Chao asked in a deep voice, Your Highness. Where are the other princes? Dead. They're all dead. Zhu Jingqing murmured. He looked like he was quite frightened. Hearing Zhu Jingqing's answer, Wu Ma Chao's expression tightened. He asked, Your Highness. This matter cannot be joked about. What happened? Monster. They're all monsters. They're all dead. Zhu Jingqing yelled at Wu Ma Chao. Wu Ma Chao's expression darkened. He immediately shouted, Pass down my order. All troops, be on guard. Report. Prince Zhu Di has returned. A soldier quickly came over to report. Not long after, Zhu Di rode his horse back with a gloomy expression. He jumped off his horse and looked at the exhausted Zhu Jingqing. Wu Ma Chao frowned. The crown prince had said that everyone was dead. How could there still be someone alive? He walked forward and asked, Prince Zhu Di, what happened? Zhu Di, with an obscure expression, walked past Wu Ma Chao towards Zhu Jingqing. He lowered his head to look at the person who should have died and raised his fist. Bang! This fist ruthlessly landed on Zhu Jingqing's face. Wu Ma Chao was stunned. Zhu Di was Zhu Jingqing's trusted aide. He was like his own son. What was happening today? Wu Ma Chao didn't expect things to turn out like this. He immediately pulled back the rampaging Zhu Di. Prince. You'll get into trouble like this. Beating up the crown prince was a serious crime. Moreover, there were so many people watching. Don't pull me back. I'm going to kill this animal today. Zhu Di felt a wave of lingering fear when he thought about what had just happened. Although he had helped the crown prince, that was only a power struggle. However, this was related to the safety of the empire, and he had crossed the line. That little girl had killed all the princes. He wouldn't let her off so easily. Following Zhu Di's curses, all the soldiers were shocked. This Prince Zhu Di dared to insult the crown prince. Did he not want to live anymore? Zhu Jingqing, who had been punched, seemed to wake up. He stood up and gave the prince a kick. Motherf***, I'll kill you. Zhu Jingqing coldly shouted. Wu Ma Chao immediately gave the order to separate the two and bring them to see the emperor. Right now, Zhu Qingxian was currently pampering an imperial concubine. Right when he was about to do it, a voice sounded out from outside the door. Your Majesty, the crown prince and the princes have started fighting. Zhu Qingxian was originally very excited, but when he heard what the emperor said, he immediately lost all interest. Zhu Qingxian stood up, and that imperial concubine's face was filled with hidden bitterness. Just a little bit more, after arriving at the front hall, Zhu Qingxian looked at his two sons and asked gravely, what happened to the two of you? You even caused a ruckus here. Father Emperor. Zhu Jingqing caused a huge ruckus. Zhu Di knelt onto the ground. Before Zhu Jingqing could say anything, a soldier hurriedly rushed in. Fear could be seen on the soldier's face as he said, Your Majesty. A little girl appeared in Changlin, she. Hearing the word little girl, Zhu Jingqing and Zhu Di's expression immediately changed. What happened to her? Zhu Qingxian asked gravely. She kidnapped all the princes. What? Zhu Qingxian suddenly stood up and shouted out. The might of an emperor immediately spread out. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, please calm your anger. Let me go and take a look. I will go with you. The two of you, kneel here. After finished speaking, the emperor didn't even look at his two sons and walked out of the front hall with Wu Ma Chao. Chapter 405. Behind Yizizi, the three corpse Kuns stood upright. Their enormous bodies emitted a tyrannical aura that soared to the heavens. Although the soldiers stationed outside the courtyard stood firm, their bodies were trembling. They had never seen such a scene before. After all, they were only the guards of the imperial palace. They were only responsible for the safety of the imperial palace, and there had been no casualties in the imperial palace for the past 1,000 years. Some of the family members of the princes in the courtyard seemed to have received some news. Then, seeing the emperor hurriedly walk out, they all followed him out to observe the situation. When Zhu Qingxian and Wu Ma Chao stood on the temporary stone wall, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. Hundreds of princes were suspended in mid-air, their faces filled with terror and terror. Zhu Qingxian gripped the wall tightly with both hands, his eyes filled with anger. Those were his sons. That's a corpse Kun, a vicious beast from outside the border. Not a single one has appeared in 1,000 years, but now 3 have appeared. How is this possible? Wu Ma Chao muttered with fear in his eyes. Having guarded the border for many years, he understood this kind of vicious beast the best. It was incomparably brutal. At that time, he was still a young man. He had followed his father and encountered the corpse Kun once. That battle had resulted in countless casualties before the corpse Kun was repelled. However, his father was heavily injured and passed away in the last few years. It could be seen how powerful this vicious beast was. Zhu Qingxian calmed down and shouted in a deep voice, Who are you? Why are you capturing this emperor's sons? Hurry up and let them go. No, Yizizi mumbled as she sucked on her lollipop. Why did this sentence sound so helpless and infuriating? Zhu Qingxian was infuriated. His words were like a sharp blade stabbing into his chest. Go save this emperor's son. Where is the heavenly master? Where is my heavenly master? Your Majesty, the celestial master is ill and did not come, Wu Ma Chao said in a deep voice. Ying Wei did not come. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied with the emperor. Your Majesty, calm down. This is a corpse Kun, you can't act rashly. Otherwise, the consequences will be unthinkable. Wu Ma Chao tried his best to persuade them. This small number of people wouldn't even be enough to fill the gaps between the corpse Kun's teeth. This emperor's child. The princes struggled helplessly in midair. They looked at their father on the stone wall and stretched out their hands. This was a son's plea to his father for help. Father, please save your son. Imperial father, I don't want to die. I didn't participate in the power struggle. I don't want to die. The princes' wives were also standing on the stone walls. When they saw their husbands, they couldn't help but cover their faces in disbelief. Some even cried loudly, and some even knelt behind Emperor Zhu Qingxian, begging him to save their husbands. They were all innocent. Hey, are you the emperor? Yi Zizi shouted at Zhu Qingxian. Zhu Qingshuan's breathing was rapid, but he had calmed down a little. I am. Yi Zizi licked her lollipop. I finally found you. The reason why I came here today is to pass on his honor's decree. Your honor. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. How did they provoke a supreme being? Is there some kind of misunderstanding between us? Zhu Qingshuan's anger subsided a lot as he asked. Just ask the crown prince and you'll know. Yi Zizi slowly floated in the air and flew towards Zhu Qingxian. The princes in the air also hovered over. What are you trying to do? Wu Matsauhu shouted in front of Zhu Qingxian. Yi Zizi retracted her smile and said coldly, according to his honor's decree, you have 3 days to prepare. 3 days later, his honor will come here and bathe the imperial city in blood. As soon as she finished speaking, hundreds of princes violently twitched and instantly turned into skin and bones. All the generals were stunned. They couldn't even muster the will to resist. This was not a fight on the same level. Zhu Qingshuan's eyes were bloodshot as he watched his son die in front of him. He clenched his fists tightly, and the princes' wives all cried until they fainted. Yi Zizi sucked on her lollipop again. 3 days. Hurry up and bring out your strongest abilities. Don't disappoint his honor. Goodbye. After she finished speaking, she revealed a cute smile and disappeared into the air. The 3 corpse Kuan drilled into the ground and disappeared without a trace. However, they were still hidden dangers. Zhu Qingxian looked at the skin and bones on the ground. His head was dizzy, and his body fell backwards. Your Majesty. Wu Matsauhu hurriedly supported him. Zhu Qingxian grabbed Wu Matsauhu's arm. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was distorted. Go back. I need to properly interrogate that unfilial son. On top of the stone wall, everyone was crying. The soldiers' bodies were stiff, and they didn't even have the strength to lift their legs. Outside, hundreds of skin and bones were scattered. The scene was shocking. This made everyone realize a problem. In front of absolute power, even the imperial family had no way to resist. Zhu Qingxian hurriedly walked towards the hall. His expression was frighteningly gloomy. Behind him, Wu Matsauhu was also frowning. This matter was actually related to the crown prince, and his son's disappearance? Could it be? Thinking about this, Wu Matsauhu emitted a faint killing intent. At this moment, Zhu Jingqing and Zhu Di were still kneeling in the hall. When they heard the footsteps outside, they immediately lowered their heads. Especially Zhu Jingqing, he could no longer remain calm. Zhu Qingxian walked towards the crown prince and fiercely kicked Zhu Jingqing, sending him flying. Then, he immediately sat on the main seat. Zhu Jingqing's body was like a cannonball as he fiercely smashed out of the room. Waves of muffled sounds rang out from outside. It could be seen how powerful the kick was. Zhu Di. Tell me what happened. Zhu Di didn't dare to lie and told everything that happened just now. Zhu Qingxian felt a wave of dizziness after hearing it and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Your Majesty. Father Emperor. At this moment, waves of hurried footsteps rang out from outside again. The Empress, Che Mainyang, and Che Hongliang could be seen appearing. Your Majesty, Yun-er, where's my Yun-er? Che Mainyang's beautiful face revealed a panicked expression. Meanwhile, Che Hongliang hurriedly bowed with a grave expression. Empress, out of all the princes, only Zhu Jingqing and I are left, the other princes have all died. Zhu Di said sorrowfully. Che Mainyang blankly looked at Zhu Di who was kneeling on the ground. A few hours ago, my son was alive and well, and a few hours later, He told me that he died. Empress. Che Hongliang cried out in surprise. The empress could be seen directly fainting on the ground. Emperor Zhu Qingxian gasped for breath and said coldly, "Go. Go and bring that unfilial son over." "Yes." Wumatsaohu replied coldly. After quite a while, Wumatsaohu carried Zhu Jingqing over. Right now, Zhu Jingqing's entire body was covered in blood, and he had suffered very serious external injuries. However, his life was not in danger. "Speak. Tell me everything in full detail. I, the emperor, have lost a few hundred of my sons today. I don't mind losing another one." Zhu Qingxian stared fixedly at Zhu Jingqing. What that little girl said just now was very obvious. Everything that happened was because of Zhu Jingqing. "This is Highness the Crown Prince." "Father Emperor, I'll speak. I'll speak. Right now, how would Zhu Jingqing dare to hide anything? Your son accidentally found Nuwa's bloodline and Donghuang's bloodline. Chapter 406. Speak. Continue. Zhu Qingxian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Zhu Jingqing gulped. "These two bloodlines are under the control of Lord Marquis. They are both in the plains under his jurisdiction. So you're in a hurry to take over the plain." Zhu Qingxian instantly understood. Ho Xuelin wanted to monopolize the two branches, and after his son found out, he became greedy. Zhu Jingqing fell silent, tacitly acknowledging the truth. And then? Zhu Jingqing said, "After that, a few days ago, I brought along my trusted subordinates and went over, wanting to meet them, but they were too powerful, and I was the only one who didn't make it through." "What about my Wu Ma Chao asked angrily. Zhu Jingqing didn't dare to look directly at it and said in a low voice, "He was burned to death." "What?" "Father Emperor, I thought that there wouldn't be any formidable figures appearing in that kind of low-level plane, but who would have thought that a little girl would actually be able to defeat us?" Upon thinking about Dong Huangli, Zhu Jingqing couldn't help but tremble a bit. Zhu Qingxian questioned coldly, "Is it that little girl just now?" "No, not the one just now. It is even smaller than the one just now." Hearing Zhu Jingqing's words, the hall was silent. A child younger than the monster just now. What kind of monster was that? How could there be such a person in such a low-level plane? "Your Majesty, I think we should immediately return to the palace to discuss a countermeasure." Che Hongliang made the most sincere suggestion. Zhu Qingxian was silent for a moment before he said, "Send someone to retrieve the corpses of the princes. This emperor will naturally take revenge for this. As for the crown prince, he will be stripped of his title and thrown into the dungeon to be dealt with later." "Father Emperor, please spare me, I didn't do it on purpose, Father Emperor." Zhu Jingqing's entire body was covered with blood, and it seemed like Zhu Jingqing wanted to crawl towards his father emperor, but the soldiers outside the door grabbed onto Zhu Jingqing and brought him away. "Imperial father, spare my life." Zhu Jingqing's pleading voice could still be heard from outside the hall. If he had known this would happen, he would never have gone to such a low-level plane. The bloodline of the Nuwa clan and the bloodline of the Donghuang clan were not as important as his life. Wealth was sought in danger. Zhu Jingqing obviously did not seek wealth, but brought disaster upon himself. If Yihua wasn't that powerful, Zhu Jingqing might have succeeded, and the consequences would be unimaginable. "Return to the palace," Zhu Qingxian shouted in a deep voice. The majestic team had only been here for a few hours, but they suddenly returned. This made many people in the city curious, and they were all discussing why the royal family suddenly returned to the palace. The hunt would last for 7 days. Could it be that something had happened? This was what everyone was thinking. Moreover, from the number of people in the group, there were a lot fewer people, and those who were missing were princes dressed in luxurious clothes. This gave rise to all kinds of speculations. The team did not land outside the imperial city. Instead, they flew directly into the imperial palace. Of course, the news of all the princes being killed had to be kept under wraps. Otherwise, it would cause unnecessary panic. After Zhu Qingxian returned to the palace, he immediately summoned all the ministers to discuss how to deal with this matter. Heavenly Master, do you have a good plan to repel the enemy? Zhu Qingxian, who was sitting on the throne, asked in a low voice. His tone was filled with desolation. Anyone who encountered such a thing would collapse, but Zhu Qingxian was the emperor. No matter how great the pressure was, he had to endure it. Ying Wei turned around and cupped his hands. Your Majesty, the blood ray has come true. Everyone present was silent. The legend of the blood ray was true. It had only been a few days, yet it had already happened. 3 days later, it would be even more impossible. Not to mention anything else, just the 3 corpse kun were enough to keep them busy. What bullsh** T blood ray? This subject believes that in a battle between 2 armies, the one who strikes first has the advantage. If your Majesty trusts this subject is willing to take 100,000 soldiers and slaughter that lower plane as an offering to the heroic spirits of the princes. Wu Ma Chao was brimming with murderous intent. The little girl only knew demonic techniques. It was only because of the 3 corpse kun's presence that he didn't dare to act. Moreover, the corpse kun was a vicious beast from heaven's domain. Those lower planes didn't have them, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Che Hongliang disagreed and cupped his hands, saying, General Wu, if we send out our troops, then there will be no room for negotiation. You have to know that the other party could be a supreme. So what if he's a supreme? Can a supreme kill princes as he pleases? Wu Ma Chao was a bit selfish. He wanted to take revenge for his son. As for the little girl the crown prince spoke of, she was killed because they were not as skilled. Ying Wei calmly said, Your Majesty, this subject believes that we should invite a supreme to mediate this matter. Is there a need for a supreme for such a small matter? Your Majesty, allow this subject to take revenge for the princes. That way, Your Majesty will be at ease. General Wu, if you really bring your troops there, then it will be a battle to the death. Che Hongliang warned. A general was a general after all, he was brainless. Wu Ma Chao coldly snorted, who knows if the little girl is bluffing. Your Majesty, we cannot be scared out of our wits by the enemy. Allow this subject to be the vanguard. If this subject fails, then it won't be too late to invite a supreme. Once these words were spoken, the hall began to whisper among themselves. Zhu Qingxian powerlessly asked, Heavenly Teacher, what do you think of this method? General Wu's suggestion is not impossible, but if General Wu fails, then we can only place our hopes on a supreme. There will be no room for maneuver. Ying Wei's words were true. Heavenly Teacher, you are boosting the morale of others and diminishing your own. This general has guarded the border for thousands of years and has experienced far more dangers than this. What is there to fear from such a lower plane? Che Hongliang, what do you think? Zhu Qingxian asked. Che Hongliang lowered his voice and said, My opinion is the same as yours. We can send our troops, but there is no way out. Is there a way out now? Wu Ma Chao laughed mockingly. This group of treacherous people only knew how to play tricks. What do you all think? Zhu Qingxian asked the officials. I think General Wu's suggestion is feasible. Let's first test the enemy. If they are truly a fox exploiting the tiger's might, then we will destroy them. I agree. I also agree. I also agree. Seeing so many people in favor of General Wu's suggestion, Zhu Qingxian seemed to have made a decision. After all the adult princes had been killed. It would be a lie to say that they were not angry. Moreover, this anger had to be washed away with blood. Good. Wu Ma Chao, listen to the decree. I order you to take 100,000 soldiers and be the vanguard. If the enemy is a fox exploiting the tiger's might, bring their heads to see me. Then, we will destroy that lower plane as a sacrifice to the souls of our princes. Wu Ma Chao knelt to receive the decree and shouted, Do not worry, Your Majesty. I will definitely kill those inferior races. However, if I do not return within a day, your Majesty will arrange for an audience with the Supreme. I hope your Majesty will take care of my family. Chapter 407. This servant will not hesitate to risk my life. This servant will go and prepare now. Go. Wu Ma Chao bowed and left. Soon after, he went to gather 100,000 soldiers to take revenge for his son. In the palace hall, Sky Teacher sighed. Rather than attacking, I might as well express my goodwill. This is the best way to avoid this disaster. However, this was normal for His Majesty. It had been a long time since the royal family suffered a loss. For the royal family's face, they had to fight back. Sky Teacher, go and prepare for the ceremony. If General Wu Ma does not return tomorrow morning, we will ask Jizun for help. Right now, Zhu Qingxian only planned to use these two plans. He had a lot of confidence in Jizun. After all, Jizun was a very ethereal being. He was above gods and controlled the laws of the world. And the other party was just a self-proclaimed his honor. Who knows if it was real or fake? However, those three corpse Kuan were indeed very hard to deal with. Your Majesty, please be at ease. This servant will naturally make proper arrangements and do my best to get through this disaster. Ying Wei was a conservative person. Although the suggestion that he made was not very aggressive, it was very practical. If they followed Ying Wei's suggestion and sent someone to get in touch with Yi Hua and try to satisfy Yi Hua's request, there might be a trace of hope to solve the problem. Alright, there is no hope at all. Under Zhu Jingxing's attitude, Yi Hua had already determined his ending. Not only his ending, but the ending of the people around him as well. At that very moment, within the ruins of Ji family, there were 6 figures. They were huddled together and seemed to be discussing something. What is it? GGG, Imperial Translation, I want this place. Sun Fang, what is this fellow saying? He is speaking in a dialect, I don't understand. Then, we want this place. You guys go to Ying family and guard it. No, I want this place. You guys go to Ying family and Voidless Realm. These 6 people were naturally Voidless Realm and Death Mage. Death Mage, Sun Fang, Green and Red Brothers, plus Tang Wei and Zishan. The 6 of them followed his honor's instructions and came to wait for Yi Hua. Because Yi Hua felt that after Yi Zizi caused such a ruckus, the other party would definitely not sit still and do nothing. There was a possibility that the other party would take action. And the other party would definitely take action against the remaining 2 big shots or everyone. Thus, Yi Hua specially ordered Wei Chang to deal with them. Of course, Wei Chang wouldn't deal with it himself, so he arranged for his subordinates. In the beginning, he had called Death Mage and Sun Fang, but after feeling that there were too few people, he decided to call the Green and Red Brothers. In the end, when Tang Wei heard that there was going to be a fight, her hands became a bit itchy. Wei Chang naturally doted on Tang Wei a lot, and thus, he gave Tang Wei a chance to gain some experience. Adding on Zishan, who was by the side, there were only 6 of them. The 6 of them were divided into groups of 2, each guarding the 3 giants. However, all 6 of them knew that if they were to really come to Voidless Realm, they would definitely appear in Voidless Realm first, and there was at least an 88% chance that they would appear there. This was what Zishan had said herself, because if she really wanted to come here, the deities would definitely go and investigate, and there would be records of her. As soon as he said that, everyone wanted to stay here because there was work to do. They were so bored that their scalps were falling off. Hearing these women arguing, Big Brother Green said, how about we play rock paper scissors? The winner will guard the Ji family's side, and the loser will guard the other 2 sides. How about it? After Sun Fang heard it, she felt that it was fine. Zishan and Tang Wei also felt that it was not a bad idea. Little brother, go. Big Brother Green pushed Yi Hong forward. As for Tang Wei, she pushed Zishan forward. You don't want a husband and wife team, and yet, you want a brother team? You don't want your wife, be careful of Zishan getting angry and killing you. Yi Hong looked at Zishan, then immediately shifted his gaze away. Yi Hong's heart was thumping wildly. Although they were already an old couple, every time Yi Hong saw Zishan, his heart would be in a mess, and every day, he felt as if he was living the feeling of his first love. Death Mage pushed Sun Fong forward. This woman's luck was good, back then, she helped me fish and won quite a bit of money. Before playing rock paper scissors, Zishan secretly glared at Yi Hong, seemingly saying, "If you dare to win against me, don't enter the room today, go sleep on the sofa." Yi Hong felt that Zishan was threatening him, and naturally, he wouldn't fight with his wife over Zishan. This was a kind of display of doting on his wife. Rock paper scissors. "Oh yeah, I win," Sun Fong laughed, then used a pair of scissors to wipe the two of them. Yi Hong spread out his hands. "Don't blame me." Zishan snorted, acting coquettishly. After that, she left Ji family with Tang Wei and headed towards Ying family. As for the Green and Red brothers, they went to Voidless Realm. Meanwhile, inside Leisure Bar's office, Yi Hua was smoking a cigarette while standing beside the window and staring at the night sky, and Wei Chang was respectfully standing behind him. "Your Honor, will they come?" Wei Chang asked in a low voice. Yi Hua spat out a mouthful of smoke, and the smoke transformed into a skull, which was soon blown away by a breeze. According to those people's way of thinking, they definitely won't leave the matter at that. What's the saying again? Attack when the enemy is unprepared. Yi Hua said indifferently, then lightly flicked away the cigarette ash with his index finger, then took another puff of the cigarette. "Comfortable." Wei Chang immediately complimented, "Your Honor is truly courageous and resourceful." Subordinate is convinced. "Wei Chang, I am already tired of hearing those words, prepare some new words." "Extremely smart?" Yi Hua almost choked on his own cigarette. Touching onto his own hair, he said, "If I were to become extremely smart, you would be the first one I would target." His Honor is just saying it casually. "I have already said that I have stewed Lai Gu a few thousand times, but I still haven't stewed it yet." "Your Honor, how many people are going to go 3 days later?" Yi Hua took one last puff of the cigarette, then said faintly, "Everyone." Wei Chang, who was behind Yi Hua, revealed out a strange smile, seemingly like he was already impatient. There will always be some fellows who don't know the difference between life and death and want to anger his honor. After knowing the consequences of their actions, it will be too late for regrets. In this world, there is no if. Bayubiubiu, bayubiubiu, bayubiubiu. Imperial translation, "Wife, how many gold coins have you sent?" Right now, Death Mage and Sun Fong were sitting at the entrance of Ji family's house. Sun Fong was still sitting cross-legged on the broken chair, and her pair of tender fingers were tapping on the screen frantically. Death Mage, who was at the side, was not inferior in any way either. These two people are simply demon hands. "Don't make a sound, we are fighting a boss." "Aya, it is all your fault for distracting me," and the boss was actually snatched away by someone else. Sun Fong snorted. She was not willing to accept this outcome. "Let's do another 648, I will kill you too." Death Mage looked at Sun Fong, who was at the side, and deeply despised her. "Right now, I don't even need to top up money when I'm fishing, do you believe me?" Death Mage secretly opened up the top-up interface and instantly tapped on 648. Then, he scanned his face and paid. Death Mage's movements were so skillful that he looked like a habitual criminal. "What are you doing?" "Top up money." Sun Fong glared at Death Mage. "GGG, Imperial translation, top up money?" "Impossible, it is impossible for me to top up money in my entire life." Within the pitch-black ruins of Ji family, a different rhythm of music rang out. Furthermore, that noise seemed to have added a bit of liveliness to the ruins. Meanwhile, within Heaven's Manor, Wu Ma Chao had already finished his preparations. Looking at his 100,000-strong army, every single one of them was a fierce warrior who had been through hundreds of battles. Going to a low-level plane, wouldn't it be just a matter of slaughtering dogs? Soldiers. I don't want to say any unnecessary words, I only have one request. Wu Ma Chao paused for a moment, then swept his fierce eyes around. Kill all of the living beings in front of us. Long live the general. Long live the general. What kind of feeling was it to have 100,000 soldiers shouting at the same time? If an ordinary person were to hear it, their entire body would go numb, and their brain would immediately be filled with blood. A black-robed man standing in front of an army of 100,000 was a rather comical sight. However, from Death Mage's point of view, the number of people on the other side wasn't as many as he had imagined. However, if he were to look down from above, the scene would be much more spectacular. Who are you? Wu Ma Chao pointed his blade at the Death Mage. Kakik. The royal translator said, your father. Wu Ma Chao was stunned. What did that mean? Since Death Mage was wearing a black robe, Wu Ma Chao couldn't see his face clearly. That was why he was suspicious of his opponent's voice. Sun Fang translated while playing the game, he's calling you an idiot. How dare you? General Wu Ma is not someone a piece of trash like you can slander. As the deputy general, he had to stand up for the general. Wu Ma Chao motioned for his deputies to withdraw and asked, why are you here? Biu. Sun Fang pressed her phone and laughed, waiting for you guys. Kakik. The royal translator said, my wife is right. Hearing Sun Fang's words, Wu Ma Chao laughed loudly. Even the soldiers behind him started laughing as well. Just 2 people and you want to fight against this general's army of 100,000? Are you guys stupid or insane? Wu Ma Chao laughed in disdain. The people of this low-level plane were too arrogant because they didn't know what despair was. Sun Fang stood up and looked straight at Wu Ma Chao. There's no need for 2. 1 is enough to deal with you guys. Haha, what a joke. You guys are the people who call themselves his honor, right? Wu Ma Chao asked while laughing. That's right. His honor predicted that you guys would come and launch a sneak attack. That's why he ordered us to receive you guys and serve you well, Sun Fang said while playing the game. This kind of attitude made Wu Ma Chao very unhappy. He immediately pointed his index finger at Sun Fang, and a golden ray of light shot out from his fingertip. It brought along an astonishing might, and its speed was so fast that it made people blush with shame. Sun Fang didn't even raise her head. It was as if she didn't notice it. Wu Ma Chao sneered. So it was just a woman who only knew how to talk big. However, the next scene caused Wu Ma Chao to lose his cool. The golden ray of light actually stopped half a meter away from the woman. It was as if it was isolated and could no longer move forward. How was this possible? Wu Ma Chao looked at his own hand. This move was able to pierce through people who were weaker than him. Even if they were at the same level, it would still be able to heavily injure them. However, in this low-level plane, it was actually blocked. If Wu Ma Chao had asked Zhu Zhenxing in detail, perhaps he wouldn't have been so impulsive. After all, Wu Ma Chao believed that the Crown Prince's trifling skills couldn't even be put on the stage. It was normal for him to lose. However, he was different. This kind of thinking was indeed very scary. Actually, there was no difference between him and the Crown Prince. You guys are fighting already? Do you need my help? The green and red brothers suddenly appeared at the scene. Zishan and Tang Wei also suddenly appeared here. The 4 of them stood in the sky and curiously looked at the army of 100,000 in front of them. The scale was not small at all. They actually sent out so many cannon fodder. That's right, in their eyes, these people could only be called cannon fodder. Wu Ma Chao looked at Zishan, who was one of the 2 women. He thought to himself, do they look alike, or are they the wives of the Marquis? Also, what is the meaning of the sudden appearance of 2 men and 2 women? Helpers? However, only 4 came. The people of this low-level plane must have some problems with their brains. Stop messing around. Can't you see that my little skeleton is acting cool? Sun Fang laughed. The little skeleton and Wu Ma Chao looked at Death Mage, who was holding the scythe of death. Death Mage revealed his skull. Wu Ma Chao's gaze was startled. He didn't expect Death Mage to be from the undead race. He was actually suppressed by a skeleton. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if this were to spread out? In this kind of trash plane, only this kind of low-level undead race would appear. Of course, Zi Shan knew Wu Ma Chao. However, she wasn't very familiar with him. She had heard about this person before. She quite admired Wu Ma Chao. He guarded the border all year round in exchange for peace. However, she didn't expect him to be the one leading the army today. If they could instigate this person to defect, it would be a fortunate thing for the team. General Wu Ma. Zi Shan shouted. Chapter 409. You are Madame Zi Yuan? Wu Ma Chao looked at Zi Shan in the sky and asked. Zi Shan paused for a moment, then said indifferently, I do not have any relationship with that Ho Shuolin. Please do not call me Madame Zi Yuan, my name is Zi Shan. Alright, then Zi Shan, what do you mean by this? Wu Ma Chao did not want to waste any more words. This Zi Shan's attitude was clearly a traitor. She betrayed Heaven's manner, betrayed her faith. General Wu Ma, a wise man submits to circumstances. If you and your subordinates surrender to his honor, then we will be able to avoid a lot of casualties. Ha! Ha ha ha! Wu Ma Chao laughed after hearing that. He did not expect Zi Shan to persuade them to surrender. Zi Shan, did I hear wrongly? You want to persuade them to surrender? I am Heaven's Manor's General Zhenyuan. My family has been guarding the border for generations, allowing Heaven's Manor's people to live a good life. This glory is my faith. And you abandoned your faith and helped the tyrant. However, even if you surrender, I will not let any of you go. Everyone in this low-level plane will pay a heavy price for what you have done. Even after death, your soul will be cursed by the heavens. Zi Shan shook her head after hearing that. General Wu Ma, why bother? Your stubbornness will make the warriors behind you sacrifice for nothing. What a joke. My soldiers were brought up by me. They do not fear anything. As long as it is an enemy, they will bravely charge forward, even if it means death. Isn't that right? Do not fear death. Do not fear death. Do not fear death. Waves of high-spirited voices soared into the sky. That deep and resounding voice made one's scalp go numb. The Green and Red brothers could feel it very clearly. This was morale. Zi Shan, it's useless. Sun Fang slowly put down her phone. She knew that Zi Shan wanted to persuade her people. However, it took you so much effort to change your mind. For a general to change his side just because of a few words from you, there must be a conspiracy behind it. Zi Shan deeply sighed and turned around, as if she did not want to see her comrades being massacred. Upon seeing that, Yi Hong hurriedly walked in front of Zi Shan. She did not know how to comfort Zi Shan and could only gently hug her. Wu Ma Chao snorted coldly when he saw this. A high and mighty god was actually following a lowly human. He was the scum of the gods, a disgrace to all the gods. Lowly skeleton. I'll let you see how this general breaks your bones. Just as he finished speaking, the skeleton opposite him tossed the scythe in his hand into the air. GGG, Royal Translation, Death Absorption. The death scythe in the hands of the death mage was not an ordinary item. Although in terms of toughness, it seemed to be inferior to the Xian Yuan sword, which was an ancient godly item, the death scythe was an artifact that could be used for both offense and defense. It was not a real weapon. It was just like the staff in the hands of a mage. Although its attack power was low, its magic power was very strong. The Scythe of Death followed the same principle. In the Scythe of Death, there was a terrifying power hidden within it. It was the super move that came with the Scythe of Death. Death Absorption. If it was used at this time, it would be obvious that it was an area of effect attack. If it was a single target attack, it would take a long time. Therefore, Death Mage was a very good mid-laner. Sometimes, he would even pretend to be a top laner, but in the end, he would be beaten to a pulp. Death Mage was a good jungler, snatching all kinds of resources. When the Scythe of Death was tossed into the air, it immediately began to spin. The speed became faster and faster, and it was as if a circular black hole had appeared in the air. Although it gave people an illusion, it was not an illusion. It was a real black hole, a black hole that led to death. A terrifying aura was emitted from the black hole. Wu Ma Chao was shocked. Everyone, listen to my command, get into formation. Ha! The 100,000 generals shouted in unison, and they immediately blocked the terrifying aura. A barrier enveloped everyone within it. The black hole was still expanding, and the aura emitted from it was getting heavier and heavier. It was firmly suppressing the barrier. With the naked eye, it could be seen that the circular barrier seemed to be being pushed, and it looked like a bubble that was about to explode. Finally, the black hole in the air no longer expanded, but it was currently at least 100 meters in radius. It was pitch black inside, and the 100,000 soldiers could clearly see it. It was impossible to think that this was the end. The ruins of the Ji family slowly rose. Wu Ma Chao's gaze shifted over, and he saw that the ruins were actually being sucked into the black hole. However, the suction was getting stronger and stronger. The buildings were no longer rising slowly, but were forcefully sucked in. Some trees were even uprooted. Steady! Wu Ma Chao shouted loudly. What kind of technique was this? How could it be so abnormal? All the soldiers stabbed their weapons into the ground, but the suction of the black hole was getting stronger and stronger. Their feet left long marks on the ground. Even though their weapons were cutting through the ground, they could not stop the suction. The 100,000 soldiers immediately fell into chaos. The barrier was extremely unstable. All of a sudden, the barrier broke. Ah ah ah. Ah ah ah. Ah ah. The moment the barrier broke, countless soldiers' bodies rose into the air, and they were mercilessly swallowed. There was no blood or violence in this scene, only painful wails. The strongest, Wu Ma Chao, shouted angrily. A layer of golden light wrapped around him, and he stabbed the ancient divine weapon in his hand into the ground. His feet stomped hard, and he sank deep into the ground. Do not panic. Resist this suction. Wu Ma Chao shouted angrily. He watched the countless figures being sucked into the black hole, but he could not do anything. Even now, he was still trying to protect himself. Many soldiers began to imitate the general, but their strength was different. Even though they were imitating, they were still sucked into the black hole. General! Save me! Wu Ma Chao turned his head and saw a young and tender-looking youth reaching out his hand. His eyes were filled with panic. He probably hadn't married yet. Wu Ma Chao reached out, but he missed. He could only watch as the young soldier was sucked into the black hole. General! This time, Wu Ma Chao caught him. Vice General! General, thank you. The Vice General revealed a smile. He was not thanking the general for saving him, he was thanking the general for taking care of him all these years. Wu Ma Chao's rigid face was also moved. Do not panic. I will have a way to save you all. However, the suction was getting stronger and stronger. The Vice General's body was lifted high as if he was being pulled by something. Wu Ma Chao's feet began to move underground. It was easy to see how terrifying this suction was. General, let go. Thank you for taking care of us all these years. The Vice General saw that the general was not letting go. He was grateful, but he could not drag the general down with him. What nonsense are you saying? We still have to go back together. Chapter 410. The Deputy General smiled and looked at his general. He did not follow the wrong person in this life. Don't let go. Hold on for me. Wu Ma Chao slightly lowered his head and spoke with a commanding tone. The deputy general had followed him through life and death, so he naturally valued this favor. However, the deputy general's body had already been torn apart by the suction force. Only his hand and that sincere smile remained. After an unknown amount of time, the screams stopped, and the suction force stopped as well. Wu Ma Chao gasped for breath and raised his head. I said I would. He did not finish his sentence because he saw the deputy general. Without the suction force, the deputy general's body drooped down. He was indeed holding on to the deputy general's hand, but it was only his hand and that smile. Wu Ma Chao let go of the deputy general's hand and slowly straightened his body. The black hole in the sky had already disappeared. He slowly turned his head. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers behind him had also disappeared. Other than his deputy general, there was nothing left. This made Wu Ma Chao feel as if he was dreaming. A gentle breeze blew past. Wu Ma Chao took off his helmet. His rigid face seemed to have aged a lot. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and guilt. The opponent only used one move. One move. His elite army was completely gone. At this moment, Wu Ma Chao felt as if the heavens were playing a joke on him. How could there be such a person in a low-level plane like this? No wonder Zi Shan betrayed us and even advised me to surrender. So what she said was true. If I surrendered, I would have been able to save the lives of hundreds of thousands of soldiers. However, I did not listen. That's why there were so many casualties. How am I supposed to face my dead soldiers? This kind of death is meaningless. The gentle breeze messed up Wu Ma Chao's hair. His black hair was mixed with some white hairs, and they gradually turned white. In an instant, his black hair turned white. This was the self-blame of a general. He deeply regretted his orders. Wu Ma Chao suddenly knelt beside the deputy general. He inserted both his hands into the ground and used them to dig a hole. Once. Twice. Thrice. Wu Ma Chao buried his deputy general on the spot. Then, he picked up the ancient godly item beside him and stood up. Looking at the skeletons not far away and the people standing in the sky, Wu Ma Chao coldly shouted, "Today, you killed 100,000 of my soldiers. Tomorrow, I will kill 1 million, 10 million of you. I, Wu Ma Chao, curse all of you with my soul." Death Mage let out a cackling sound. Royal translation, curse rebound. Today, I, Wu Ma Chao, admit defeat. However, if there is a next life, I will still stand against you. Wu Ma Chao's body gradually emitted a terrifying aura. The ancient divine weapon in his hand also shone brightly. Death Mage had been waiting for this moment. It had been a long time since he had fought, and he could finally have a one-on-one fight. Be careful. He wants to detonate his primordial spirit and ancient divine tool. Zi Shan suddenly cried out in alarm. The few of them were stunned. Were they not going to fight anymore? Suicide? Wu Ma Chao's heart was filled with guilt. He had already lost all desire to fight. If he had listened to the heavenly teacher's advice, then this would not have happened. Who would be responsible for the deaths of 100,000 soldiers? Only an incompetent general like him would be responsible. You guys are indeed very strong. But no matter how strong you are, you can't be stronger than a sovereign. Just wait to receive the wrath of a sovereign. I will be waiting for you on the road. Ha ha ha. In the midst of Wu Ma Chao's crazed laughter, his body became brighter and brighter. A berserk aura swept out in all directions, and the ancient divine tool gradually cracked open. A world-destroying aura was fusing together. Death Mage let out a breath. Cackle cackle. Royal translation, flight restriction. Wu Ma Chao was surrounded by a layer of transparent bubble. Boom! Wu Ma Chao turned into a speck of light within the bubble and exploded along with the ancient divine tool. The inside of the bubble was distorting. The multicolored energy seemed to be very violent. It wanted to explode, but it was surrounded by the bubble. Zzzt. A crack actually appeared on the surface of the bubble. Soon after, more and more cracks appeared. In the blink of an eye, the bubble exploded. The entire ground of the G family trembled, and the barrier of the G family almost shattered. If it was not for the flight restriction absorbing the first wave of damage, the consequences of this terrifying self-detonation would have been unimaginable. However, Death Mage, who was the closest to the explosion, was also affected by it. He even slid backwards. This kind of self-detonation was a qualitative change. It was not only the primordial spirit, but also the ancient divine tool. Even a pervert like Death Mage was forced to slide backwards a few meters. It must be said that Wu Machao's self-detonation was quite effective. At the very least, it made Death Mage retreat. There was a loud bang. Death Mage, who was sliding backwards, felt that he bumped into something and turned his head to take a look. Oh God, my phone fell onto the ground. This is the latest iPhone XS. It was not easy for me to get Sun Fong to buy it for me, and it was the highest specs. Now that it fell onto the ground, Death Mage's heart was broken. He picked it up and took a look. If Death Mage's face had flesh, he would definitely be shocked. Because a crack had appeared on the screen. I am a perfectionist, how can I allow such a flaw? Sun Fong took a look. If you don't fish in the future, I will buy you a new one. Don't fish? Aren't you asking for my life? At most, I will just play with it first. Maybe I will get used to it after playing for a while. Everyone, we will be leaving first. Sun Fong smiled and left with Death Mage. Tang Wei and Big Brother Green tactfully left as well, leaving behind Yihong and Zishan. Zishan's mood was a bit complicated. It was truly a pity, so many people were gone in the blink of an eye. Seeing that his wife was dejected, Yihong lightly hugged onto her. Yihong, who didn't know how to speak, could only use actions to express his feelings. It was not easy for Yihong to take the initiative. Zishan didn't say anything and lightly hugged onto Yihong. Zishan, how about you don't go? Yihong was talking about what would happen 3 days later. It would probably be even more miserable. Zishan had killed quite a lot of people that night. She was only feeling sorry for what happened today. She wouldn't change her opinion of Zishan. After leaving Yihong's embrace, Zishan faintly said, I will go. Oh, alright then. Towards Zishan's request, Yihong agreed without thinking. Of course, if Zishan crossed his bottom line, he wouldn't agree to it. For example, Zishan's request to sleep on the same bed, Yihong would definitely not agree to it. Yihong had to make some achievements first, only then would he have the face to sleep on the same bed as Zishan. Zishan let out a breath, then turned around and looked at Yihong. Pursing her lips, she said, Are you going to sleep on the bed tonight? Zishan's words had undoubtedly crossed Yihong's bottom line. Right now, Yihong was especially serious. Zishan, I will have to sternly criticize you for this. As a girl, how can you make such a request? Even if someone is going to make such a request, it should be made by me. Chapter 411. Yihong said gravely, Zishan, these few days, I have already said it countless of times, I will only do that thing with you after I become successful and famous. Otherwise, in my heart, that, you don't like me anymore. Nope, I like you. Bring it up then. Not really, I want to make a career. Forget it, I will go and look for his honor to grant me death. Yihong was a bit troubled recently. In the beginning, Zishan was still fine, and Zishan seemed to have promised me, but gradually, at night, Zishan began to talk about this serious problem, whether or not they should share a bed first before making a career. Zishan even said that she was very bored and wanted to give birth to a child to play with. I, Yihong, am a man, the words that I have said are like water that has been poured out, how can I go back on my words? However, the continuous rejections made Zishan angry. Yihong was very puzzled. In the beginning, it was you who didn't want to share a bed with me, and now, You want to get angry because we are not on the same bed? This is too ridiculous. Why did Zishan do this? It was because she had been very close to Tang Wei recently, and after Tang Wei told Zishan about her experiences, Zishan became very worried, and thus, Zishan began to test Zishan crazily. In the end, this foolish brat actually didn't have any reaction, and he wasn't even willing to say it directly. This is not a good thing. After all, Zishan didn't want Yihong and Wei Chang to be like that, and she also didn't want to follow in Tang Wei's footsteps and Sun Fang's footsteps. However, looking at the current situation, Zishan was definitely going to follow in her footsteps. Inside Leisure Bar's office, Wei Chang received Death Mage's report and said respectfully, "Your Honor, the people are here, everything has been cleaned up." "That's good, you should go back and rest early, I am tired as well." Yihua yawned, seeming to be very bored. Wei Chang smiled slightly and said, "Your Honor, have a good sleep." "Have a good sleep?" Hee hee. Yihua sneered a few times. "With these two troublesome women around, how can I possibly have a good sleep? If you have the ability, don't let me worry about you." Wei Chang knew what his honor meant, and laughed awkwardly, then disappeared from the office. Lying on the bed, Yihua once again enjoyed the feeling of being unable to sleep. "Right now, without a woman in his embrace, I feel very unnatural. In the past, I did have some small cards in Leisure Bar. If the two of you still don't come back, I am going to have a fur race." Heaven's sanctum. That night, the entire imperial palace was brightly lit. As the emperor, Zhu Qingxian did not rest. He sat on the dragon throne and waited for news. The ministers stood obediently, hoping that General Wu Ma would return victoriously. The sky gradually brightened, illuminating the pitch-black night sky. Zhu Qingxian narrowed his eyes and stared at the sky outside. When the darkness dissipated and dawn arrived, everyone realized a problem. General Wu Ma would not be coming back. "Ying Wei, go and prepare the items needed for the sacrificial ceremony. We can only rely on Jizun now." Zhu Qingxuan's eyes were bloodshot and looked terrifying. Coupled with his exhausted expression, it was as if he would go berserk at any moment. "Yes." Ying Wei replied respectfully and left the hall. Zhu Qingxian sat paralyzed on the throne and murmured, "The blood aura is really effective." Everyone was dead silent after hearing this. After a long time, Zhu Qingxian stood up, walked out of the hall, and walked towards the royal altar. The royal altar was located in the north of the imperial palace. It was an independent place. The size of the altar was about the same as the entire imperial palace. After all, Jizun was a noble existence. If they were not pious, how could Jizun help them? At that moment, all the maids in the imperial palace were called over to help. As there were too many things to prepare, Zhu Qingxian did not want to go to the back of the palace. He did not want to go to the bedroom either. He knew what the concubines would think. After a few hours, all the sacrificial items had been prepared. There were countless ancient godly items on the altar. There were even rare ancient godly items. Of course, the number was small. However, the fact that they were able to take out so many items showed how powerful the imperial palace was. "Your Majesty, everything is ready." Ying Wei bowed and said. "Then, let's begin." Zhu Qingxian walked forward and picked up a small knife. He cut his finger and let his blood drip into the groove. As the blood of the imperial palace flowed into the altar, the entire altar changed. It was as if it had color. The complicated carvings around it started to rotate slowly. Zhu Qingxian knelt on the cushion with sincerity and muttered in his heart. Following the rotation of the carvings on the ground, a complicated picture was formed. Soon after, the picture emitted a faint blue radiance. The blue radiance became brighter and brighter. It was like a blue flame, causing people's eyes to light up. Pooh! The blue radiance soared into the sky. The weapons on the altar instantly disappeared, and the blue radiance shot into the clouds and disappeared without a trace. In a small world, a man was playing the zither. The sound of the zither caused people to be intoxicated. Behind him stood two young men. Their expressions were filled with respect, and their gazes were filled with yearning. A ray of blue radiance suddenly descended. The man stopped playing the zither and said, "Go take a look." "Yes, father." The young man instantly disappeared and immediately returned. "Father, these are the godly weapons sent by Heaven's mansion." "That's good too. Forging a primordial sharp blade requires a lot of materials. This is far from enough." The man sighed. Forging a primordial sharp blade was too difficult. "Father, it seems like Heaven's mansion has met with some trouble." The other young man said softly. It seemed like he wanted to go take a look as well. The man waved his hand and the strange zither disappeared. Xing, father will take you out for a walk." "Thank you, father." The two young men were very excited. They could finally go out. A beautiful woman walked out of the house. "Hong Tai, where are you going?" "It's time to eat." "Mother, father, take us out for a while." Hong Tai turned to look at his wife. Heaven's mansion's royal family sent a signal. Something must have happened. "I'll go take a look." "It'll take 2 or 3 days. Since something has happened, and Xing should stay at home." "Mother, we're already grown up. We're not children anymore." Hong Yi pouted helplessly. "In mother's eyes, you'll always be children." Hong Tai said solemnly. "All right, the children have grown up. It's time to go out and experience the world. The situation is urgent, so we won't be eating." After speaking, he brought his 2 sons and left the small world. The woman watched her husband and children leave. Her heart sank. She felt that something bad was about to happen. Zhu Qingxian and Ning Wei stood on the altar, waiting for the sovereign to arrive. A spiritual light flashed, and 3 people suddenly appeared in front of them. This caused Zhu Qingxian and Ning Wei to be stunned for a moment. Soon after, the 2 of them shouted out in unison, "We pay our respects to sovereign." Chapter 412. Zhu Qingxian didn't dare to say too much and went straight to the point. "Your Honor, my sons seem to have offended an overlord, and that overlord killed all of my sons. Furthermore, he even said that he would bathe the imperial city in blood 3 days later. I have no other choice. Would an overlord be that bored?" Hong Tai laughed lightly. It was clear that he didn't believe what Hong Tai said. Overlords were all ethereal existences, and under normal circumstances, they wouldn't even appear, and they wouldn't get involved in any disputes. Of course, that was except for the matter that happened a few years ago. That perverted skeleton did something that angered both humans and gods, and all of the overlords took revenge on him. At that time, Hong Tai and his master went to take revenge on him. However, his master died in that battle, and his master was heartbroken. However, fortunately, those monsters that killed people like flies were all killed, and the world returned to peace. Furthermore, it was under the encirclement of overlords, and right now, his strength had increased by who knows how many times. Even if an overlord were to encircle them again, a single fart from him would be able to suffocate them to death. Your Honor, I didn't believe it at the start either. Yesterday, my general brought 100,000 troops to investigate, and he still hasn't returned yet. The odds are against him. Zhu Qingxian sighed. That stupid son of mine actually caused such a huge trouble, and now, I have to help him clean up his mess. Hong Tai disapprovingly said, "Seeing is believing. Tell me, how did you 2 offend that overlord?" Zhu Qingxian told Hong Tai about what his son said. So it was because of Nuwa and East Emperor's bloodline, then it makes sense. Xing, what do you 2 think about this matter? Hong Fei asked his 2 sons to see what they thought. Hong Yi said respectfully, "Father, I feel that with father's strength, you are not inferior to that overlord at all." Overlords were also divided into different levels, and within each level, there would definitely be a difference in strength. What Hong Yi said is very true. Father's strength is boundless, and there isn't anyone in the entire universe who is as strong as father. From the looks of it, these two youngsters belonged to the category of bootlicking. However, as a father, Hong Tai had lived in seclusion for a long time, and when he heard his son bootlicking, he couldn't help but laugh. Emperor, you can be at ease. With me here, even if a few Jizun were to come, the Jizun would still have to give me some face, let alone an unknown Jizun. Hong Tai appeared to be very confident. After all, there was an agreement between the Jizun, and the Jizun was not allowed to kill each other. Zhu Qingxian heaved a huge sigh of relief. Since the supreme martial artist had spoken, then it must be fine. Your Honor, the room and food are ready. Yes, it's been a long time since I've tasted Heaven's Sanctum's food. Your Honor, rest assured, I will definitely entertain you well for the next few days. Emperor, you are too polite, Hong Tai said politely, but his arrogant attitude was not polite at all, it was more like it was a matter of course. Hong Yi and Hong Xing, who were following behind him, also had disdainful smiles on their faces. Their birth represented that they were extraordinary. Because their father was a supreme being, they should enjoy the respect of everyone. Even if the other party was an emperor, they still had to be respectful to them. Because the son of a supreme being is not someone you can afford to offend. Oh ho, Yi Hua means, you can provoke my woman just because she is my woman? Then let me teach you what it means to not provoke someone. 3 days passed quickly. Today was Saturday, and the weather was sunny. It was suitable for the whole family to travel together. It has been a very long time since I last brought my guild members out to do something big. Back then, when I went to Ying family, I didn't manage to enjoy that kind of bloodthirsty feeling. However, this time, I hope that those deities will not disappoint me. Furthermore, he hoped that the deities would invite some powerful backers because he liked surprises. On the bed, he wore a black suit. He tied his tie and touched his hair wax. Then, he pressed his hair down and swept it back. This slicked back hairstyle was very handsome. Yi Hua looked at himself in the mirror. I'm still as outstanding as ever. Taking out a cigarette and lighting it up, Yi Hua opened the bedroom door and slowly walked down the stairs. He saw more than 10 people standing in the lounge of the bar. They were originally chatting happily, but when they heard the unique footsteps, they all stopped talking and immediately stood properly. Your Honor. When Yi Hua appeared in front of everyone knelt down on one knee and shouted out respectfully. Yi Hua raised his hands slightly, and a formless power lifted everyone up. There were a lot of people who came today, and there were even more than the last time. There were 4 of the 7 deadly sins. Wei Cheng, Lai Gu, Yi Zizi, Zhu Tian. Underlings, Death Mage, Sun Fang, Tang Wei, Yi Ran, Wen Xia, Bai Xiaozhen, Zi Shan, Green and Red Brothers. Zhu Tian's 2 maids did not come because Zhu Tian did not give them any strength, and Dongfang Yue was still an ordinary person. However, Zhu Tian liked how ordinary they were, because ordinary people wouldn't be able to last long, and after that, they would start begging for mercy. And Zhu Tian liked how exciting they were when they were begging for mercy. Of course, there was also his sister-in-law, Qing Yutong, who was in the crowd. Brother-in-law is going to act cool again. Big sister will never be able to see brother-in-law act cool again in this lifetime. This time, including Yi Hua, the number of people who came this time reached 15. This made Yi Hua feel very happy. After all, there were only 8 people including me in the past. Right now, there are still 3 people who haven't returned, and there will be 15 people in the future. Looking at his subordinates, Yi Hua flicked away the cigarette but in his hand and said gravely, Today, I only have one request. And that is to let go of yourself. A trace of an evil smile appeared on the corner of everyone's mouth, even Zi Shan was the same. Within her body was Wei Chang's black fog, which would cause people to have a thirst for blood and become dependent on death. It would be fine if I didn't think about it, but once I thought about it, I couldn't help but want to make a move. Set off. Yi Hua shouted coldly, and the 15 people instantly disappeared from Leisure Bar. Right now, there wasn't a single person in the streets and alleys of Heavenly Province Imperial City, just like a dead city. The entire city was on high alert, and although no one knew what happened, they were sure that it was definitely something terrifying. And outside of the Imperial City, the Emperor had gathered 1,000,000 soldiers. They stood on the vast and spacious prairie and waited for the arrival of the enemy, because they had to protect the homeland behind them. In the surroundings of the army, there were various kinds of high-level ancient beasts. Those ancient beasts were all being ridden by people, and those ancient beasts that were flying in the sky were also being ridden by people. There were even a few rarely seen wyverns. The wingspan of the wyverns were a few hundred meters, and when a few of them were flying together, it seemed as if they were going to cover the sky of the Imperial City. Within the army, there were also many people who were wearing various kinds of mage robes. These people were all big shots from various sects and clans in Heavenly Province Imperial City. Although they did not reach the level of overlords, they were still the overlords of a region, and their strength was not to be looked down upon. Meanwhile, Zhu Qingxian and Hong Tai were standing on top of the city wall, looking into the distance, and waiting. Those people wouldn't be scared to the point that they don't dare to come, right? Hong Xing suddenly laughed. Hong Yi, who was at the side, nodded his head. With such a battle formation, even if an overlord came, he would have to be somewhat afraid. Hong Tai laughed lightly. To dare to come, I, the Supreme Overlord, have to admire you. Chapter 413. Zhu Qingxian and Hong Tai's gaze became serious. Sky Teacher and the others were the same. They really came. Huh, so few people? They aren't even enough to fill the gaps between our teeth. Hong Yi laughed. He didn't feel scared at all. It wasn't only Hong Yi who thought so, the others were the same as well. Hong Xing looked at the group of people and said disdainfully, "There is one more woman than men, and there is also a little girl. Uncle, what kind of group is this? Are they here to make a joke? But these women are incomparably beautiful." Hong Yi interrupted. This caused the surrounding people to start sizing up the group of people. "Indeed, they are not bad. Your Majesty, that woman seems to be Marquis Lord's woman, Zi Shan." Che Hongliang noticed Zi Shan and whispered into the Emperor's ear. Zhu Qingxian said coldly, "No matter who they are, those who are standing over there are all enemies." "Your Honor, what do you think?" Zhu Qingxian asked respectfully. Hong Tai thought that they were some big shots, but they were just some random people. He didn't even notice any Jizun among them. After all, he had seen 70% to 80% of the Jizun. Although he hadn't seen the rest of them before, they definitely wouldn't have the same attitude as these people. Especially the man who was smoking at the very front. Why did he look like he was asking for a beating? "Your Majesty, don't worry, these people don't even need me to do anything. I reckon that they will be scared away soon." It was normal for Hong Tai to have this kind of feeling, because he didn't sense the aura of these people at all. Then, there were only two possibilities. First, these people were all monsters that were stronger than him. Second, they used some kind of method to conceal their aura in order to intimidate him. The first possibility was definitely impossible. How could these 15 people all be stronger than him? Therefore, there was only the second possibility left. They used some kind of superior method to conceal their aura. Hearing what Jizun said, Zhu Qingxian felt relieved. However, he still asked, "Your Honor, they still have 3 corpse Kuan. They are merely corpse Kuan, there is nothing to fear." This time, Zhu Qingxian was completely relieved. However, Sky Teacher who was at the side was worried. This matter isn't that simple. However, when Hong Tai looked at Yi Zizi, his gaze was a little curious. He felt as if he had seen this little girl somewhere before. She looks very similar, but her outer appearance is different. He thought to himself that he was thinking too much. Those people were all killed a few years ago. How could they appear again? Yi Zizi was indeed different from before, especially when it came to her image. Today, Yi Zizi was wearing a cute lowly outfit. She was wearing a lace black dress, mesh stockings, and a pair of small children's shoes. Her hair was tied with a big bow, and she looked like a lowly. She was also holding a small bag in her hand. She didn't look like she was here to fight, but to shop. However, it was precisely because of this attire that Hong Tai dispelled his doubts. He only felt that they looked alike. If Yi Zizi was still the same as before, this Hong Tai would definitely run away without saying a word. Yi Hua's side was standing in a very orderly manner. His sister-in-law, Qing Yutong, would naturally have to stand by her brother-in-law's side, and by her side would be the 4 people from the 7 deadly sins, and after that would be the rest of the people. Everyone knew that today was an important day, and thus, they were especially meticulous when choosing their attire. After all, they mustn't throw away his honor's face. The men were dressed in suits and leather shoes, and the women were all in gowns. There were deep V's, revealing backs, shoulders, etc. Anyway, there were all kinds of revealing. With this kind of attire, it looked like he was attending a ball and not going to bathe the imperial city in blood. However, this also meant that everyone's mentality was very good, and they were very relaxed. There are quite a lot of people here. Yi Hua looked at the 1 million soldiers in front of him and muttered. It has been a long time since I have seen such a scene, I truly miss it. Your Honor, do you want to take action now? Wei Chang said in a low voice. Yi Hua said indifferently while smoking a cigarette, don't be anxious, let's have fun today. At the same time that I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to give them hope, I am also going to give them despair. According to the previous routine, I will start killing without saying anything, it will be simple and straightforward. However, I will also lose a lot of interesting things. For example, in a situation where they thought that they were going to win, I will ruthlessly slap them in the face. Compared to the former, that kind of despair is much more interesting. Lai Gu asked curiously, then, what is hope? Zhu Tian said indifferently, right now, they are in the midst of hope. They think that just because we have fewer people, they will be able to defeat us easily. Lai Gu revealed out an expression of understanding. Yi Hua went into a slight daze. Is that so? I was still thinking of other methods just now, and I didn't expect that Zhu Tian would be able to see through my intentions. This is truly not bad. Let them feel despair first. A trace of an arc appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth as he flicked the cigarette in his hand. The remaining half of the cigarette flew into the air and made a muffled sound like firecrackers exploding. Sparks scattered in the air. Everyone looked up, not knowing what the other party meant. He didn't even know what the other party's intentions were. This guy sure knows how to act cool, Hong Yi laughed in a low voice. Humph, trying to act cool in front of my father? You're really digging your own grave. Hong Xing sneered. Truly a bunch of fellows who didn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. However, Hong Tai was much calmer. His eyes were filled with mockery, as if he was watching a clown perform. As the emperor, Zhu Qingxian seemed to be infected by this relaxed feeling. Without any pressure, he watched with the attitude of enjoying the performance. It wasn't just them. Everyone on the city wall felt the same way. There was also the million-strong army. Of course, there were also the sect leaders of the various sections. They're just a motley crew. His Majesty even called us here. What a waste of time. That's right, just give the order to kill them. Perhaps, His Majesty wanted to enjoy the astonished expression of the other party. That's true. They thought that they were very awesome, but in the end, they discovered that in front of an overlord, this sort of awesomeness is nothing. That's right. Look at the ancient beasts on our side. That enormous dragon in the sky, what could they possibly have? A few beautiful women to put up a front? Truly laughable. When two sides fought, what they were competing on was their morale and imposing manner. Looking at the current situation, Yi Hua's imposing manner was inferior to the other parties. After all, the lineup of the other party was very strong. Even if an overlord came, he would have to be somewhat cowardly. Just as everyone was making fun of Yi Hua, a boundless and powerful energy swept over, causing everyone to be stunned. What is this thing? It hasn't even appeared yet, and it is already releasing such a powerful pressure. Hong Tai stared at the horizon and sensed the ferocious aura. Shock could be seen in his eyes, but it wasn't to the extent of fear. Of course, this was the feeling of a powerful overlord. However, it was different for others. Chapter 4:14. Even a god would panic when faced with an unknown species, let alone an unknown object that was giving off such a strong pressure. This made everyone's scalp go numb. Your Honor, just what is this thing? Zhu Qingxuan's natural state from just a moment ago was completely gone, and his expression was one of nervousness. Wave after wave of pressure caused people to be unable to breathe. Hong Tai said indifferently, it should be some kind of powerful creature. Hong Yi and Hong Xing, who were standing at the back, seemed very normal. After all, they were the children of Supremes. They were born with a kind of immunity, as if nothing in this world could do anything to them. Some kind of creature? Zhu Qingxian murmured. The Taoist master's slightly narrowed eyes suddenly widened. This situation seemed to be described in an ancient book. The appearance of this creature brought destruction and rebirth. Its biggest characteristic was that one could feel the deep fear even before it appeared. That was a giant beast from the prehistoric times. Inferno Nether Dragon. Once this dragon appeared, not even a blade of grass would grow. This should be the Inferno Abyssal Dragon. The Celestial Master said in a deep voice. Zhu Qingxuan's expression changed drastically. The Inferno Abyssal Dragon shouldn't have appeared in Heaven's palace. Heavenly Master, are you mistaken? Zhu Qingxian questioned because this was simply impossible. The Celestial Master shook his head. If the ancient book was not wrong, this was the characteristic of the Inferno Abyssal Dragon. Zhu Qingxian gasped for air, then turned to Jizun and asked, Your Honor, this raging Inferno Nether Dragon? Of course I have heard of the raging Inferno Hades Dragon. This dragon is a prehistoric beast, and also an overlord of the prehistoric world. But don't worry, I can still deal with a raging Inferno Hades Dragon. Hong Tai said it casually, but his heart was a little heavy. Because the other party could actually order the Inferno Abyssal Dragon. This was simply unimaginable. All prehistoric beasts had their own majesty. How could they bend their bodies and listen to someone? Unless this was not the Inferno Abyssal Dragon at all. The temperature of the air was gradually rising. Zhu Qingxuan's forehead was covered in fine beads of sweat. The Celestial Master, Che Hongliang, and the others beside him were the same. Not to mention the millions of soldiers below. Their sweat had already soaked their armor, and even the sweat had flowed to the blades in their hands. After which, the sweat dripped onto the ground, causing fine dust to rise. Suddenly, 3 black dots appeared in the sky. They looked very small, like mosquitoes, but everyone was sure that this terrifying aura was coming from those 3 black dots. As the black dot got closer and closer, everyone could not help but gasp. The sage's mind was already buzzing. They really are Inferno Abyssal Dragons, and there are 3 of them. Zhu Qingxian looked towards Jizun, Your Honor, can you deal with 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons? Nonsense, my father, don't talk about 3. Even if 30 of them come, I will still slay them with my sword. Behind him, Hong Yi spoke up for his father. This emperor really didn't know how to speak. He actually dared to question his father's strength. Hong Xing was even more disdainful. Isn't it just a 3-headed dragon? My father will be chopped into minced meat in a matter of minutes. Isn't that right, father? Hong Tai revealed a confident smile. Of course. Although this Inferno Abyssal Dragon is powerful, it is nothing in my eyes. When Hong Yi and Hong Xing heard this, their faces were filled with pride. You trash were actually scared to this extent by a 3-headed dragon. Father will show you what true strength is. However, if someone were to observe carefully, they would notice that the current Hong Tai was very solemn. That expression just now was just an act. And these 2 children were also deceiving their father with their strength. However, this was also normal. They were spoiled and thought that their father was invincible. However, there were a lot of species that not even Jizun could afford to offend. Just like what Hong Tai said just now, he could still force back one Inferno Abyssal Dragon, but now, there were 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragon. There was no longer any suspense. However, Hong Tai did not cower. If the enemies were to know that there was an Jizun protecting them, they would definitely not dare to make a move. Jizun was protected by a treaty. Jizun was not allowed to kill each other. With such a powerful backing, Hong Tai was not afraid in the slightest. However, I have already bragged about it. How am I going to deal with these 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons? If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have brought them along. As the 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons approached, the air seemed to be boiling. However, if one were to look down from the sky, wherever the 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons passed through was instantly scorched. Every time they flapped their wings, the ground would turn into a sea of fire. There were even huge cracks on the ground. Along the way, they passed by 2 cities and a sect. Right now, the sect had already turned into a raging inferno. And this was just the flapping of those wide wings, and such a terrifying outcome was already created. This was unheard of. Roar. The 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons' roars gathered together, instantly causing the sky to tremble. Even the heaven and earth had turned into a sea of crimson red. How could an army of 1,000,000 withstand the roars of the Inferno Abyssal Dragons? Their eardrums instantly exploded. Their skin felt as if it was being burned by the high temperature. Blisters had already appeared on their skin. However, this dragon roar was just the 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons expressing their allegiance to the Supreme Sovereign, or perhaps they were saying, the Supreme Sovereign is the Supreme Sovereign. Imperial translation, Little Brother is here. Who does the Supreme Jizun want to deal with? When the Inferno Abyssal Dragons entered the battlefield, the flames on their bodies were gradually absorbed into their skin. At a glance, these 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons looked exactly the same. The dragon scales on their bodies were like iron and magma, completely red. Their eyes were like blazing suns, looking down at the common people. When those blood-red wings spread out, they were 1,000 meters long. The 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons looked like they wanted to cover the entire sky. On the other hand, the Inferno Abyssal Dragons seemed a bit small. And when those ancient beasts sensed the aura emitted by the Inferno Abyssal Dragons, they all lowered their heads and submitted. Those in the sky even directly fell down and laid on the ground motionlessly. No matter how much their masters scolded them, they did not have any reaction. The only reaction they had was that their entire bodies were trembling. Everyone on the city wall looked at the gigantic dragons in front of them and did not know what to say. Even Hong Yi and Hong Xing, who had always been arrogant, were shocked by the size of the Inferno Abyssal Dragons. This was the first time that they had seen such a gigantic dragon. If we are able to ride on the back of the Inferno Abyssal Dragons, how awesome would that be? The 3 Inferno Abyssal Dragons slowly landed on the ground, raising up a cloud of dust. Everyone felt threatened. Is this the main force of the Inferno Abyssal Dragons? If it is, then we have no chance of winning at all. We can only hope that the Jizun is here. Hong Tai was also pondering. This is most likely the entire strength of the Inferno Abyssal Dragons. This is indeed not bad, very strong. However, something surprising happened. The 3 dragons actually hugged each other, and their gigantic dragon tails intersected above their heads, forming a platform. Yi Hua and the others instantly appeared on the platform. At this moment, they were truly able to look down on the entire imperial city, as well as that despicable deity. Yi Hua materialized an ordinary wooden chair and slowly sat on it, then lit up a cigarette and said, Chapter 4:15. Won't harm you all. Everyone became speechless. Won't harm anyone? You're lying with your eyes wide open. Although everyone thought so in their hearts, no one dared to say it out, because the scene in front of them was really something that was hard to see even once in 10,000 years. The prehistoric beast Inferno Abyssal Dragon was actually hugging onto the other party like an obedient baby. Its legs were supporting its huge body, and its claws were tightly holding onto the other party's body. How sharp were the claws of the Inferno Abyssal Dragon? The scene was enough to prove that the claws directly pierced through the other party's indestructible dragon scales and pierced into the other party's flesh. Bright red blood flowed out from the wound, but this was only to hold the other party's body in place. Everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. They didn't know what words to use to describe the scene in front of them. Just who are those people on top of the dragon? Just who are they? Hong Tai laughed lightly. I thought that the other party would directly attack us, but it turns out that the other party didn't even have the intention to do so. From the looks of it, the other party also knows of my existence, which is why they didn't dare to act rashly. Lord Father, your prestige has frightened them. Hong Yi revealed out a confident smile. Apart from being shocked, he also felt fortunate that he was born in Sovereign's family. Hong Tai said faintly, I am naturally able to suppress them. Emperor, you should be at ease now, right? At ease. Right now, Zhu Qingxian had placed all of his hopes on Sovereign. Seems like Sovereign is still very afraid of me. If not, why didn't such a powerful prehistoric beast attack us? Yi Hua expressed, what do you know? Do you know what is called acting cool? You all are standing on top of the city wall, while I am sitting on top of the dragon. The difference between us is immediately pulled apart. In actuality, all of these are just small scenes. However, being able to admire the astonished expressions of those deities, Yi Hua felt rather comfortable in his heart. What I did in the past was wrong, I had to do this every time before attacking, and my status would instantly rise. Thinking about how I stood on top of Lai Gu in the past, Yi Hua felt very low. A bone standing on top of another bone. That scene is truly a bit unsightly. Those are all dark history that must be erased. Qin Yutong stood at her brother-in-law's side, and she felt that compared to the time when she went to Ying family, these people were all high and mighty deities, and brother-in-law was able to suppress the arrogance of these people just by casually bringing 3 dragons over. However, the purpose of summoning 3 giant dragons was just to build a high platform. What a pretentious act. No wonder he was her brother-in-law, who had the syndrome of acting cool after smoking. He was standing next to her. Her sister and Baiji were so stupid that they missed this scene twice in a row. If you are here, you can think whatever you want. With brother-in-law's temperament, he will still spoil you. You guys just have to go against brother-in-law. This baby is much smarter. I really love brother-in-law. Moi, little sister-in-law will give you a spanking ing. I reckon that if Yi Hua were to ask Qin Yutong to come and serve him in his bed right now, Qin Yutong would probably get off in an instant. Using Qin Yutong's words, in this lifetime, it would be fine as long as you hug onto brother-in-law's thigh, and don't worry about anything else. And when Qin Yutong's system saw this scene, it was also intoxicated. He could brag about this for the rest of his life in the system world. 7 deadly sins were already used to it, but I feel that it is different from before. His honor's way of handling things is more detailed. Tang Wei, Sun Fang, and the 3 celebrities were also very shocked. However, they quickly controlled their emotions. After all, they had experienced the incident at Ying family. However, the Green and Red brothers were completely in a state of shock. This scene is too mystical to the point that they feel as if they are dreaming. It was normal for the 2 brothers to have this kind of thought. Some things need to be digested slowly. Facing such a big scene, the Green and Red brothers were still a bit unable to control themselves. This time, Yi Hua had also planned to let these newcomers experience the world. It would be beneficial for them in the future. Zi Shan, who was in the group, seemed to be calm, but in her heart, she was very excited. The people below her were all members of the royal family, and in front of them, I am completely unable to raise my head. Furthermore, I was even forcefully brought into the harem by Ho Shualin. To a woman who had no one to rely on, this was the most sorrowful thing. Provoking the royal family was equivalent to committing suicide. However, even the royal family that was high and mighty in the past was currently looking at her while trembling with fear. This kind of feeling is incomparable. Zishan secretly took a peek at his honor, who was sitting on the wooden chair. All of this is bestowed upon me by this man. In Zishan's heart, his honor is a complicated person. Sometimes, it seems like he cares about others, but the way he cares about others is indeed very strange. Take me and Yihong for example, after all kinds of deaths, after all kinds of touching, and finally, together with me. Thinking back to the beginning, it seems like his honor had already planned everything from the very beginning. Those restrictions of distance, restrictions of time, and me and Yihong were firmly controlled by him. His honor is truly a man who is neither good nor evil. It is fortunate that I did not get fancied by him. Being together with this kind of man is very stressful. I truly admire those two madams. In the end, Yihong is still the best. Although she is a bit foolish, she is sincere towards me and cares for me in every possible way. This point alone is enough. Yihua suddenly thought of something and slapped onto the armrest of the chair. This caused the heart of Yihua's subordinate to sink. It can't be that Yihua is unsatisfied with something, right? Yihua immediately bowed down to express his apology. This action of Yihua's caused the people below to be dumbfounded. What is going on? Lord Father, look, all of their faces are filled with fear. Hong Xing laughed in a low voice. This scene caused everyone to laugh. Hong Yi laughed, they are definitely frightened by Lord Father. Hong Tai remained silent. The man who was sitting down just now seemed to have said something, and then, the people around him became terrified. This meant one thing. These subordinates of his are either extremely fearful of him, or extremely respectful of him. In actuality, it is both. Yihua let out a light sigh. I forgot to bring Ali over, this is a rare opportunity. I wanted to temper my subordinates, but I forgot to temper my child. Ali is almost 3 years old, it is about time for her to experience such a scene. Your Honor, subordinate can go and bring little Honor over. Wei Cheng said respectfully. The people at the side let out a sigh of relief. I thought that his honor was going to flip out, but it turns out that it was because of little Honor. Yihua wrinkled his brows, seemingly considering whether or not it would work. Zhu Tian said respectfully, Your Honor, for you to go and fetch little Honor, this is out of a father's longing for his child, and it does not mean that Your Honor has admitted defeat. What Zhu Tian said is right. It is perfectly normal for Your Honor to want to see his child. Furthermore, it has been half a month since Your Honor last saw little Honor. I reckon that little Honor misses Your Honor a lot. Wei Cheng persuaded lightly. When a husband and wife quarrel, the child is the most pitiful. Yihua missed Ali a lot too. It has been more than a month since he last saw Ali, and wasn't it all because of those two foolish women? Wei Cheng, go and fetch the child over. Tell him that I miss my child, and that I will bring the child over to stay with me for a week. After that, I will send the child back. For the sake of teaching his daughter such a lesson, Yihua took the initiative to go and fetch the child. Chapter 4:16. Speak properly. Yihua instructed. Everyone smiled in their hearts. His honor truly has a sharp mouth but a sponge's heart. In actuality, even though his honor wanted to die, he just couldn't let go of his face. Wei Cheng's disappearance made the people on the deity's side very puzzled. Why did one of the deities suddenly leave? What is he doing? He couldn't have scared one away, right? Hong Yi sneered. I haven't even started fighting, and one of the deities was already scared away. Hong Xing laughed. He only scared one away. I thought that he would scare everyone away. All right, the two of you, speak less and observe the situation more. Hong Tai reprimanded gravely. These two children have been spoiled by their mother, they don't even have the slightest bit of eyesight. Are the deities planning to leave? It is evident that they are preparing for something. Seeing that their father suddenly got angry, Hong Yi and Hong Xing didn't dare to speak anymore. Emperor, let your army retreat first. Even if they were to go up there, it would be a waste of time. Hong Tai said faintly. When one's strength has reached this level, the army would no longer be of any use. Zhu Qingxian thought so too, just that without Ji's order, he didn't dare to retreat the army. If not, the deities would misunderstand. Yihua didn't say anything as he watched the deities' army retreat. After all, I have to get rid of the deities' main force first. There is still a Ji who participated in the encirclement and annihilation operation back then. Some enmity, I still have to take revenge. My luck sure is not bad. Within Voidless Realm. The Empress moved. Wang Feng was burned down by her daughter, causing Dong Huang Baiji to feel both angry and helpless. Yihua could only choose another mountain to be the king's palace. The reconstruction work was still in progress. Within these 2 months, 2 vicious incidents had happened, causing Dong Huang Baiji to feel very depressed. Thinking about it, Voidless Realm was peaceful in the past, but ever since I met Yihua again, bad things happened one after another. I am truly an unlucky fellow. Within the courtyard, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji sat in a pavilion and rested. These few days, they have been very busy, and now, they can finally rest. Meanwhile, Dong Huangli was hiding not far away and was secretly observing her mother's expression. Knowing that she had done something bad, Dong Huangli was scared to death, scared that her mother would smack her butt. Qingye sipped the tea and said, Baiji, Ali is still young, don't blame her. She is already almost 3 years old, she is still young. Don't bother about her, let her know her mistake, and in the future, she won't act recklessly. Dong Huang Baiji said petulantly. Ever since her daughter started following Yihua, her daughter's personality had somewhat changed. He used to be such a well-behaved child. Look at him now, he even knows how to fight. What would happen when he grew up? Wouldn't he take off? Qingye laughed involuntarily. If you want to blame someone, blame Yihua, for indiscriminately teaching a child. I also want to blame him, but he didn't come. Dong Huang Baiji pouted her mouth. You can go back and admit your mistake. Then let's go together. Qingye rolled her eyes at Dong Huang Baiji, then flicked her hair. I'm not going back to apologize. I won't go back either. After hearing what Qingye said, Qingye smiled helplessly. Rubbing onto her bulging tummy, I feel that this is not bad. Although Yihua isn't by my side, at least my son is by my side. With a vibed sound, Wei Chang's figure appeared. Hello, lady boss. Wei Chang bowed slightly and said respectfully. Seeing that Wei Chang suddenly appeared, to be honest, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji felt delighted in their hearts. Yihua definitely wants face, so he didn't come and asked his subordinate to come down and fetch him. Should I agree to it or not? TSK, he doesn't have any sincerity at all. Dong Huangli, who was hiding at the side, also felt delighted in her heart. I feel that Uncle Wei didn't come to fetch her mom, but rather, he came to fetch me. Hurry up and fetch Ali, if not, Ali is going to be frozen to death by her mom. Wei Chang, what's the matter? Qingye put on a straight face and asked while putting on an act. Right now, Qingye was thinking if she should give Yihua a way out of this embarrassing situation. Wei Chang said with a slight smile, Lady boss, the boss misses you too a lot. Wei Chang. I want to kill you. When did I ever say such a thing? In actuality, Wei Chang was just following his honor's instructions. Sure enough, upon hearing their husband's inner thoughts, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji's beautiful faces gradually loosened up, and a trace of redness could even be seen on their faces. To actually let his subordinate pass on such a message, Yihua, you are too shameless. Looking at the expressions of the two madams, Wei Chang felt that he had more or less paved the way. However, his honor misses the child even more. Qingye, Dong Huang Baiji, Wei Chang was clearly here to bring the child back, not to bring them back. The favorable impression that just sprouted within Dong Huang Baiji and Dong Huang Baiji immediately disappeared. Uncle Wei, Ali misses daddy too. Dong Huangli immediately knew that her daddy was thinking of her. Dong Huangli immediately ran out and jumped onto Wei Chang's body. Dong Huangli refused to let go of Wei Chang's body and even said in a low voice, "Uncle Wei, quickly bring Ali away, Mommy's temper has been very bad recently." Looking at her daughter's reaction, Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but sigh. The child that I raised painstakingly is now even more clingy to daddy. Lady Boss, the boss said that he will bring Ali back to play for a week, and after that, he will send her back. Wei Chang explained. He discovered that your wife, who had a rosy complexion just a moment ago, suddenly became ice cold. This change in personality is too fast. Did I say something wrong just now? Qinya did not say anything. After all, Li was Dong Huang Baiji's child. Although Yi Hua was angry, it had been a long time since he took care of his child. Recently, Voidless Realm was very busy, and I can't take care of my child. All right then. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. Wei Chang said with a smile, Lady Boss, you can be at ease. With the boss taking care of your child, nothing will happen. Dong Huangli nodded her head vigorously. Dong Huang Baiji nodded her head helplessly. Lady Boss, do you have any message that you want me to pass on? Wei Chang asked. He felt that there was a need to pass on his wife's longing back. Qinya said faintly, no. Dong Huang Baiji said the same as well, no. All right, subordinate will return first then. After finished speaking, Wei Chang disappeared along with Dong Huangli. The two women sighed at the same time, feeling deeply helpless. When Wei Chang returned, only a few minutes had passed. Dong Huangli didn't pay much attention to Yi Hua, her eyes were completely filled with her father. Dong Huangli pounced onto Yi Hua and shouted out sweetly, Daddy. After finished speaking, Dong Huangli even kissed onto her father's cheek, expressing how much she missed her father. While hugging onto his daughter, Yi Hua discovered that his daughter had grown a bit taller and a bit heavier. However, her daughter was still so adorable. A fatherly smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. Ali, during this period of time, have you been listening to your mother? Li has been very obedient during this period of time, and she didn't give mommy any trouble. Dong Huangli added in her mind. Yi Hua pinched onto the honest little fellow, then said, Today, Daddy is going to teach Ali a lesson. Chapter 4:17. Just as Ali was in a daze, Yi Hua asked faintly, What is their attitude? Wei Chang paused for a moment, then said in a low voice, Your madams miss his honor very much, and they wanted me to pass their message to his honor. If Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji were to hear this, they would definitely go berserk. When did this madam say such words? Wei Chang, you better explain yourself clearly. After Yi Hua heard what Yi Hua said, he felt great in his heart. At least you all know how to talk. If you all obediently come back and admit your mistake, I will let bygones be bygones. Dong Huangli came back to her senses and thought to herself, Uncle Wei is so smart. Yeah, Mama misses Papa so much. Even in my dreams, I call Papa's name. Dong Huangli wasn't lying, she had indeed called out to Yi Hua. However, she wasn't calling out to Yi Hua intimately. Instead, she was calling out to Yi Hua. Yi Hua, you bastard. Ha ha ha. Yi Hua suddenly let out a loud laughter of joy. This caused the deities below to be puzzled. Why is he so happy? Could it be that he has gone mad? Actually, the gods down below were quite confused about this situation. That person had suddenly disappeared, and in less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he had returned with a child in his arms. The moment the child appeared, the man was overjoyed. It seemed that the child was very important to him. Father, this child should be his weakness. Hong Xing said. If we capture this child, they won't dare to do anything, Hong Yi said. Actually, both of them were expressing their own views and ideas, thinking that this would make their father feel gratified. However, Hong Tai did not praise him at all. Papa, who are they? Dong Wangli jumped down from her father's embrace and stood at the edge of the platform that was built at the dragon's tail. Looking down, her legs felt numb. Yi Hua stood up slowly and said faintly, "They are the people who bullied Ali's mama." "Is it those people from a few days ago?" Dong Wangli asked curiously. Yi Hua nodded his head. Dong Wangli's cheeks puffed up as she said angrily, "Daddy, they are all bad people, and they wanted to beat mommy up. It is fortunate that Ali chased them away, so Papa came here today to avenge Ali and Mama." "Yes, Ali also wants to vent for Mama." Yi Hua was very happy with his daughter's attitude. "Fortunately, I didn't follow their temperament." Yi Hua raised his hand, indicating to Wei Cheng that he could start. Wei Cheng coldly stared at the gods in front of him and shouted, "Which one of you can be in charge?" All the gods sucked in a breath of cold air. It was finally here. Zhu Qingxian glanced at the supreme being beside him. The latter said lightly, "Speak." "I'm the Emperor of Heaven's Sanctum." "Who are you?" Zhu Qingxian shouted. Wei Cheng shouted out, "His honor is here to settle the score. Call your crown prince out." Sure enough, it was because of the crown prince. Zhu Qingxian said in a low voice, "Supreme Being, it's possible that this Supreme Being is also interested in the bloodline of Dong Huang and Nuwa, and wants to kill my son to vent his anger. Don't worry, I'm here. They wouldn't dare to do anything to you." Hong Tai said indifferently. "Even if I were to die, Yi Hua wouldn't do anything to me." Zhu Qingxian called out, "What crime did he commit? Please tell me." Yi Hua indicated to Wei Cheng to back down, then said in a low voice, "What's the matter? He even dares to take liberties with this sovereign's woman. You guys are so daring. Didn't you still kill hundreds of my sons? Zhu Qingxian can't accept this. Just because I took liberties with your woman, you want to kill my sons?" Yi Hua sneered, "What does it have to do with you that I killed your sons?" Everyone present went into an uproar. "I've seen unreasonable people before, but I've never seen someone this unreasonable. You killed someone else's son, and you still say that it has nothing to do with you? What does it have to do with me?" Meanwhile, Zhu Qingxian was quite angered by Yi Hua's words. "Killing my sons, and you still say that it has nothing to do with me? This is too arrogant. Your honor, you have to uphold justice for me." Zhu Qingxian could only seek help from the supreme being beside him. "This person is too arrogant, and I don't have any way to deal with him." Hong Tai nodded his head, then slowly rose into the sky and stood at the same height as Yi Hua. "Which supreme being are you?" Hong Tai asked gravely. "You want to interfere with my matters?" Yi Hua asked faintly. Hong Tai didn't expect the other party to not give him any face. In that case, he didn't need to give him any face either. Since I am protecting them, I naturally have to interfere with their matters. That crown prince took liberties with Supreme Being's woman. He is indeed in the wrong, but Supreme Being, you have also killed the Emperor's 100 sons, so we should be even, right? Hong Tai still wanted to retreat without a fight. After all, these 3 inferno abyssal dragons were no joke. Yi Hua wished that he could kill this Supreme Being right now. However, if he were to kill this Supreme Being right now, they would no longer have any hope. I might as well let them fantasize for a while longer. That was merely a warning notice. To think that you lowly deities would dare to provoke my woman, you must be thinking that your lives are too smooth, right? What do you want then? Hong Tai said coldly. Yi Hua said faintly, "Kill." "Daddy, you can do it," the little fellow cheered for her father. "Those who are standing in front of her father are all bad people." Hong Tai took a look at Dong Huangli and began thinking about how to avoid a fight. "How about this? We will send out our subordinates to fight one-on-one, the best of 3. If we win, you all will retreat. If you all win, I will retreat." Towards Hong Tai's suggestion, Yi Hua felt that it was feasible. Although the situation is one-sided, I still have to give them a chance of survival. "Sure." Hong Tai nodded his head, then landed on the ground and began discussing with the emperor about who to send out to fight. Meanwhile, Yi Hua looked at his subordinates and asked faintly, "Which one of you wants to go and have a try?" "Daddy, Ali wants to go." Dong Huangli was very proactive, but Yi Hua didn't plan to let his daughter go. Today, his daughter will just watch, there is no need for her to care about anything else. Seeing that her daddy wasn't paying attention to her, Dong Huangli pouted her mouth. "Your honor, subordinate is willing to fight for your honor." Tang Wei slowly walked out and said while bowing. With just a bow, Wei Chang's breasts were all white. "This is a strapless gown, Wei Chang sure is lucky." "All right, don't disappoint me," Yi Hua said faintly. "Yes." After finished speaking, Tang Wei jumped down from the cliff. She looked just like a superwoman. Of course, when Tang Wei landed on the ground. With a boom, the ground beneath her feet instantly cracked open, and a shockwave spread out. This way of entering the stage is very cool. Yi Hua couldn't help but nod his head, then said to Wei Chang, "You taught me well." "Thank you, your honor, for your praise." Wei Chang felt that he had gained a lot of face. Lai Gu secretly negotiated with his 3 wives. "Later on, I have to seize the opportunity to properly perform in front of his honor. With that, I will be able to receive his honor's praise as well." Look at that smug look on Wei Chang's face. Due to the millions of soldiers retreating, a very large empty space was left behind. The appearance of Tang Wei made the gods feel disdain. Chapter 418. The Hong brothers who were on top of the city wall had deep contempt on their faces. Does the other party not have anyone else, or did they send a woman out to die? What a pity for such a beautiful woman, her clothes are truly very alluring when she wears them, so big, so deep. "Emperor, who do you want to send out?" Hong Tai asked. This was the best way to avoid a battle. After all, these 3 inferno abyssal dragons were not to be trifled with. "Father, why don't you let your son go out to fight?" Hong Yi, who was at the side, asked. "If I don't show my face in such a situation, it doesn't seem right. I can also let others see my strength." Hong Tai still didn't know what his son wanted to do, he just wanted to be in the limelight. "Father, your son is also willing to go out to fight." Hong Xing cupped his hands and said. As the child of an overlord, he enjoyed different treatment from the moment he was born. Right now, he could be said to be half a step into the ranks of overlords. If he is fast, in less than 10,000 years, there will be 2 overlords. This is simply rushing to die. Tang Wei is just a girl, she is easy to bully. If Wei Chang didn't have any confidence, would he let Tang Wei go out to fight? To put it bluntly, even if Tang Wei fought against an overlord, she would still have some chance of winning. Therefore, to say that Tang Wei went out to fight was obviously bullying. The reason why Hong Tai couldn't see through the strength of Yi Hua and the others was because everyone was stronger than him. This was something that he didn't expect. Although the 7 sins all addressed Yi Hua as a supreme overlord, Yi Hua wasn't very clear about his own strength. If one were to insist on an explanation, the current 7 sins were all supreme overlords, and I am already above them. Because I don't have any other titles, I can only call them supreme overlord. Back then, the 7 sins were able to team up against all the overlords, which meant that they already had the strength of an overlord. Needless to say, their strength had already reached an abnormal level. However, Wei Chang was able to easily create a supreme overlord team. Just like the Green and Red brothers, they instantly leveled up from 0 to 100. Therefore, you don't even know what kind of team you are facing, this is a team that is using a cheating device. If you don't give face, Tang Wei alone is enough. The current Tang Wei was no longer that immature university student. Facing such a scene, she was completely able to stay calm. Yi Hua also saw this, he hoped that everyone in the team would be able to take charge, that way, he would be able to relax a bit. He was suspected of slacking off. At this moment, Zhu Qingxian was hesitating about who to send out. Although Jizun's son had requested to fight, Jizun did not respond. It seemed like she wanted to see how strong the other party was. Tang Wei stood on the vast plain. Although her delicate body seemed petite, she gave off an extraordinary feeling. For a woman to be able to have such an attitude in such an occasion, the other party was impressed, but also felt that it was a pity. "Who dares to fight with me?" Tang Wei shouted coldly. "This is my first time performing in front of his honor. I definitely cannot make any mistakes. Losing face for myself is a small matter, but losing face for his honor is a big matter." Therefore, not only did they have to win, they had to win cleanly. Everyone heard this shout clearly, and the deities' faces darkened. They were actually being looked down upon by a woman. "Your Majesty, allow me." A handsome man walked out from the sex group. He wore a simple white robe and didn't wear any decorations. He seemed fresh and refined, as if he didn't belong to the secular world. Zhu Qingxuan's lips curled into a smile. "Then I'll have to trouble Sect Master. Your Majesty is too polite. It is the duty of us cultivators to eradicate evil." Wen Lu seemed to be extremely respectful, but don't be fooled by this kind of facade. Although he seemed to be respectful to the emperor, it was obvious that he wanted to show off in front of Jizun and obtain a good impression of him. Zhu Qingxian was overjoyed. "Good. This emperor will wait here for Sect Master Wen's triumphant return. Wen Lu will definitely do his best." After he finished speaking, he leaped and flew towards Tang Wei. The Hong brothers pouted their mouths. He really knows how to flatter. Lightly landing on the ground, Wen Lu carefully sized up the woman in front of him. In terms of appearance, this woman was a rare beauty, but from her clothes, she didn't seem to be very powerful, just like those women in the brothels. But from her aura, she could be considered a heroine among women. "Wen Lu, Mountain Sea Sect Master." Tang Wei paused for a moment. "Do I have to say this in a fight? However, I do have to announce my name on TV. Tang Wei, Long and University's fourth-year student." Tang Wei could only say this. His honor didn't establish any sect, and he doesn't have a position either. Uncle Wei has a position, one of the 7 sins. Wen Lu was a bit surprised. "This girl is actually just a student, and I am the sect master. Even if I win, my face won't be glorious." This woman is still a student, seems like the other party doesn't have many people. Hong Yi continued to mock the other party. The surrounding royal family members were speechless. This person is relying on the fact that his father is Jizun. He is insufferably arrogant, and has never suffered a loss before. Only after suffering a loss will you know that the cruelty of the world is not something that you can understand. Yihua carried his daughter and sat back onto the wooden chair, then asked, "How many moves do you think Tang Wei will need to win?" This is hard to say. Little Green, tell me." Yihua asked. Big Brother Green was terrified. "How would I know? I can only guess," replying to your honor, 3 moves should be enough. Lai Gu, tell me." Yihua continued to ask. Lai Gu rubbed onto his chin and said lightly, "Your honor, 2 moves. Aunt Tang, 1 move should be enough." Dong Huangli, who was in Yihua's embrace, suddenly said. Dong Huangli seemed to be very confident in Tang Wei. Yihua rubbed onto his daughter's head. "Wei Chang, what do you think?" "What your honor said is very true, 1 move should be enough." Ali said that Aunt Tang is very formidable. Dong Huangli said happily. "Daddy, hurry up and praise Ali. Ali is already prepared." Yihua said indifferently, "That's good. If you still want to use 2 moves, I will have to criticize you." Wei Chang bowed slightly, indicating that your honor is worrying too much. If those deities were to hear the conversation between Yihua, they would definitely say that Yihua was boasting shamelessly. That is the famous sect master Wen. His strength is incomparably formidable, and if he were to cultivate for another 10,000 years, he would definitely become another powerful Jizun. You actually said 3 moves, 2 moves. Even 1 move. Where did your confidence come from? Sect Master Wen should be able to deal with Tang Wei in 1 move. On the stage, Wen Lu took out his weapon. Wen Lu's weapon was a very thin long sword that looked like an embroidery needle. However, the moment this weapon appeared, a powerful fluctuation immediately gushed out from it, causing the sky to change color and the clouds to surge. This is Pear Blossom, an ancient godly artifact. Bring out your weapon. After finished speaking, the aura coming out from Wen Lu's body completely exploded out, and his eyes became as deep as the stars. It was as if he was the supreme being under the common people, and everyone else was just an ant. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.